Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no lie. You hear Palantir, 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 Palantir. It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss. This is our last Tuesday show for a while, as we are making the switch next week down to 2 streams per week. That's correct. Now, Russell has fallen ill, as many of you probably observed. I certainly observed. He was starting to struggle toward the end of the last show with his voice, because I think it has something to do with that Canadian smog that they let into our beautiful country. So now we have to tariff them. It's good to know that Donald Trump is avenging Russell Dobular by placing 50% tariffs on Canada so that they don't let their poison gay Islamo-communist smoke down here. But, you know, we have been victimized by that, in the sense that Russ is still feeling kind of ill, and he's got the Jimmy Dore show tomorrow, and then we got a show on Thursday. So I told him, because we talked yesterday, and he sounded worse than he did a Sunday night. I'm like, you know what? I don't think you could do 3 in a row if you're starting out in this shape. So Russell is taking a sick day, but he will be on the Jimmy Dore show tomorrow with Peter Turchin and Shama Sawant. That'll be a great show. And then back with us on Thursday. So that's what we got going on now. And like I said, folks, you know, we are switching to 2 shows a week. Part of why we are making that switch is so that we can expand the project in different ways. One of those ways is going to be expanding our Substack output, our written output. And I got the bug early, and I just couldn't stop thinking about the Odyssey, so I wrote a review of the Odyssey. That's up on our Substack right now. There will be more stuff like this now that we're going to 2 streams per week. We'll still have pretty much the same amount of clips, so we should maintain as strong a presence on YouTube and Rumble. But we'll be doing more stuff like this. If you want to check this out, go to dodissidents.substack.com and give it a read and sign up to our Substack. It's free. So you could sign up and give a read to that article and stay tuned for more. Or don't. Some of you guys are probably bitter about the fact that we're going down to 2 shows, so you're like, fuck it, don't read his gay articles. You'll only encourage him. You get him back in the office 3 days a week, right? So that's up to you. But if you'd like to give that a read, that is up there right now. All right, everybody, we're going to waste no further time. I'm going to introduce our guest co-host for the day, who was awesome to fill in on such short notice. He is a friend of the show. He hosts The Gray Area on Sunday and Thursday evenings. He also hosts the New American Journal from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Time, 5 days a week, every weekday. Busy man. Thanks for making time for us today, Mr. Rex Jones. Rex, great to see you again, man.
Great to see you too. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. Did I get that right? So Gray Area is Sunday and Thursday, or Sunday through Thursday?
Yeah, it's Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Like Tim was here this morning. We actually just did a 3-hour show.
Wow.
So we do it in the morning on Tuesday as well. We hope to even do a Wednesday thing. Like I'm trying to build a little media network over here.
Yeah. Well, that's the family business. That's the family business, right? So yeah, no, I mean, you are a busy man, but I mean, we're now going down to 2 shows a week, so we could start. We have a documentary that we've got to edit together. We've got written work that we want to get going, and I mean, you basically grew up in a soundstage. You know how time intensive this is. I mean,
you guys specifically, like the reason why I really fell in love with your show years back was because of how it was formatted, how it was done. Y'all are very good at presenting. Y'all are very, very good at it. It's hard to do like a show where you show a bunch of clips. It's called News Blitz. That's
right.
A style name. It's very difficult. So
yeah, it's not just like a straight talk show, like a radio show. It takes a ton of preparation, and then I do all the editing myself too, so that fills up the day after. So a 3-show week is really a 6-day work week.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, and really 7 days, because by the time you get to that Saturday off, you're prepping the Sunday show. So we needed to slow down the streaming schedule. Otherwise, we were never going to get this doc finished, and we were never going to get to some of the other parts of the project that we're trying to get off the ground. Russ is going to direct a live theater show.
I hope he feels better. I hope he gets well soon.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it was. I think it was that commie Canada smoke that
we're gonna
came
tax
in.
him. They're going to pay.
They're going to pay. So you guys are safe
victory.
down there in Texas. You guys are far enough south. You don't get any of that. But yeah, they're going to have to pay for that.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, got a lot going on.
Right.
A lot of things on the burner right now. But hey, one thing that's on the burner right now, I wanted to do a quick little segment about this. So Thomas Massie tweeted out last night, "This week's rule will not allow a vote on my amendment to strip Section 219 from the NDAA." We've been covering this fairly extensively. I know you have too, Rex. Section 219 is the merging of American and Israeli military and military intelligence. So it really is a surveillance pact as much as it is a military pact. And actually, I think the surveillance aspect is more terrifying than the military aspect, since look, we already fight Israel's wars for them anyway.
Right.
I mean, what's the difference? We may as well be the Israeli military, but you don't necessarily want Israelis looking through those flock cameras all the time. That's what makes me more nervous.
Yeah, it's this beautiful.
And I don't even carry cash, and it makes me nervous. Imagine if you carried cash and the Israelis could watch you walk through a parking lot. What a dystopia that is.
For sure, it's a beautiful idea of Netanyahu. What he said is, "Well, I think it's a great arrangement that you give me $3 billion a year because I buy American munitions with that." Now it's like paying the hooker. The hooker moves into the house. You sign a prenup and give everything to them. That's basically what it is. Like here's the thing: the language of Section 224 or Section 224, now Section 219. They changed the name. Sneaky. Israel is to be in ascendancy in all aspects of our military. So, like in legalese, when something is purposefully vague like that, it means they can do whatever they want.
Exactly.
Also, just to tag on to that, the whole point of Section 219 is really the executive agent, who is now like a second Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War. So that we're losing our sovereignty here.
Absolutely. This is an absolutely terrifying development. It failed in the Senate last week. Now they're coming up on the recess, so this is kind of their last chance to pass it through the House and then hope that the Senate greenlights it. But Massie tweeted out this development last night. So they're not allowing a vote on the amendment to strip Section 219, which means now it's all or nothing on this new NDAA. So he continues, "We should not merge our military tech and supply chain with Israel's. I will vote against the rule that allows the NDAA to come to the floor and against the NDAA." That was last night. This morning, he tweets out, "The House will soon take 2 votes that will compromise our sovereignty by merging our military technology and supply chain with Israel's. Today's vote on House Resolution 1438 brings the NDAA to the floor without a vote on striking Section 219. Tomorrow's vote is to pass the NDAA." Marjorie Taylor Greene says this is the ultimate betrayal that will never be undone. It's literally treason. Very strong words. She's not the only one to use that word. Grace Chong, she tweets out a lot of the Steve Bannon stuff. I don't know who she is, but I'm assuming similar school of thought, similar political circles as Marjorie Taylor Greene, calls this the treason bill. The Hodge twins, more in conservative media, people say stop talking about Israel, but Republicans keep doing this shit. That's right. And our friend Gen X Girl always posts a call to action. Stop the merger. House leadership is preventing a vote on Thomas Massie's amendment to remove Section 219. They want to pass one fat bill merging the U.S. military with Israel. So tell your rep to vote no on the whole NDAA. That's 202-224-3121. That is the House switchboard. So call your representative and urge them to vote no. As you get closer and closer to these recesses is when it becomes more and more likely that they're just going to say, oh, fuck it, we can't let the military go without money for a few weeks, so we'll just vote yes. You know, a lot of this bad shit happens right before they skip town. And now they're about to skip town for the summer recess, and so we'll see what happens. I mean, like Gen X Girl says, call your congressman. That didn't work in getting it stopped in the House last time, but I think enough people have heard enough to block it in the Senate. At least that happened last time. So we have to just hope for the best, because this is really an existential issue for American sovereignty. I think you put that very well.
Yeah, I'm not terribly optimistic. You know, I'm not optimistic because I look at all the people that still support the war, even at this point, and those are the same people that we need to get politically motivated to stop something like this. Maybe the Democrats will be able to do something about it. I'm hopeful about that, but I think this is kind of baked in at this point, and it's just insane that we have, like, I think it was the DIA issued the highest threat level for Israeli intelligence on us, up there with Russia and China, and now they're going to be our intelligence. So how does that work exactly? I'd really like to know. You know, maybe we're just dumb. You know, maybe we need to have it explained to us.
Yeah, well, they're not doing a very good job of explaining it because, as we'll learn later, the Iran war is now the most unpopular war in the history of public polling data, and it took less than 6 months for it to get there. But no, they are acting in a way that a lame duck president who's owned by a foreign power would act. I mean,
Right.
you know, we're going to talk about this in a couple of different segments throughout the show. You know, Rubio just put out this whole Red Scare memo in preparation for, you know, what looks like an up and coming military incursion into Cuba. Who said anything about attacking Cuba on the campaign trail? Who said anything about data centers or flock cameras on the campaign trail? Who said anything about merging the American military with Israeli military?
It's not a war. It's a peace operation. Okay. Yeah. When we cut off the diesel and when the babies die in the hospitals, that's a peaceful operation. See,
in Cuba,
we're helping them.
That's right.
Like, that's literally what you'll hear them say on Fox, near verbatim. So there's your answer to that.
I guess so. But yeah, that's the number. Once again, 202-224-3121. I don't know when the Senate breaks for recess. I don't know if they both break for recess at the same time. But, you know, it's a little inconceivable that they would just let the military go unfunded when they take a break. So we'll see. What did Anna Paulina Luna change one word in one of the... Is that why it's 219 now, or is it just a different procedure because they had to restart it?
I think that was deliberate. That had to be deliberate because Section 224... was gaining traction, and that was something that people were talking about. So I think it's tricks. You know, I thought they wrapped it up in the SAVE Act. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, they said they were going to wrap it up in the SAVE Act. They were talking about wrapping it up in the SAVE Act. Now, if they wrap it up in the SAVE Act, that makes it even tougher to pass through the Senate. But they're obviously all in on this SAVE Act, which we're actually going to get into in the next segment a little bit, because we have a quick piece that came across the wire just before we came on the show. But for now, let's take a couple of super chats. Sasser says, I just want to know how much it costs to jump to the good timeline. How did I end up here with this Red Scare bullshit again? Fuck U.S. Empire. Yeah,
well, the Trump,
not kidding.
The Trump gold card's like $5 million. So you got some work to do.
Yeah, that's right. Shai Guevara says, bought ticket for Odyssey after Section last show. Outstanding. Best anti-war film in recent decades. Struggled to hold it together in scenes in Sack of Troy. Very reminiscent of images from Gaza. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Since Troy is literally a walled-in city. Yeah, I thought it was terrific. Have you seen the Odyssey yet?
No, I got to see it this weekend. I'm a big fan of the epic, and it kind of made me mad that they took the nobody part out of it, because the Cyclops is my favorite character in the story. But I am going to go see it, and I will give a review. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you should go see it. Yeah, it definitely is its own thing, and they definitely made some changes. But yeah, I think it worked really well. I was super super impressed. And I never go to movies because between the show and being a family man, I never get to. But this one just seemed like you have to see it on a big screen, or else you can't really say you saw it. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where, like, and I love movies. I've always been kind of precious about movies, and I've always valued the theater experience. But, realistically now with the way TVs look, like, it's not true that you have to see everything on a big screen anymore. But this one, you really kind of do.
Sure.
So yeah, I think you'll like it. All right, what do we got? T-Bone over here says, best of luck on getting all your work done this summer, guys, and have a great show. Thank you, T-Bone. See, that's positive attitude. Look at T-Bone bringing the love all the time. Everything's a scam, everything's a lie, everything's hypocrisy. Focus in the eye. Thank you. Vienticus. Monkey Rotary says, I knew changing my days off was pointless. Now I got to change them again. Well, my wife almost had to change hers again if we switched to Wednesdays, but that's why we didn't. Pete Hegseth's testosterone testing and therapy also includes penis enlightenment surgery. Thank you, Eric Cousseau. Appreciate that, my friend. All right, let's move on. All right, this is a quick one. I think Trump is hosting. Was he hosting the president of Lebanon today? But we have a quote from Donald Trump, sort of an update to this story. Trump, this was during his big speech last Thursday, which he announced days in advance and put at 9:00, and was very upset and offended that the major networks were not covering it. He said that they should have their broadcast licenses revoked. And here he is last Thursday insisting that China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history.
Documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project.
So, that was just a clip of it. This was a huge deal in MAGA Twitter spaces. Holy crap, says Mohit. China hacked 220 million voter files in 2020, and the CIA covered it up. This was huge, huge news, and of course, a pretext for an executive branch takeover of national voting systems and threatening the state election officials with jail if they didn't cooperate with the federal government's overhaul, which is completely outside their jurisdiction, according to the Constitution. The only power that the federal government has over elections lies with the Congress, not with the executive branch under any circumstance. You need an act of Congress, which is why they're pushing the SAVE Act as hard as they are. But the SAVE Act, of course, seems kind of dead on arrival since they're not getting anywhere near 60 seats, and John Thune is not willing to break the filibuster. And so he was asked if there's going to be any punishment or consequences that China is going to have to pay for meddling in the 2020 election. So here is Donald Trump this morning, seeming to undermine that big speech he made Thursday, saying, yeah, it took place a long time ago. I think China's maybe a little bit different today.
And until they're ready to meet in a meaningful way, we have no interest in even.
Mr. President, are you planning on putting any pressure or consequences on China for what you announced about them meddling in the 2020 election?
Well, we're going to talk to them about it. It took place a long time ago. I think China's maybe a little bit different today than it was then. But look, they do things and we do things to them. I'll be honest. We do things to them, too. It's not a one-way street. We'll be talking to them.
Look, they do things to us, we do things to them. It's not a one-way street. It'll be all right. Never mind that whole primetime address that I teased out for 4 days and presented as this earth-shattering revelation about how corrupt our elections are and how urgent it is for the federal government to take control of how a country of 350 million people vote and elect their leaders. Yeah, it was just blowing off some steam. It was just blowing off some steam. Really, it's water under the bridge. It was a long time ago. They do things differently now. Let's take a listen one more
Well, when
time.
I talked to him about it, it took place a long time ago.
It was a while ago.
China's maybe a little bit different today.
My speech was almost a week ago. I don't remember
They do
it.
things and we do things to them. I'll be honest. We do things to them too. It's not a one-way street, but we'll be talking to them.
Mr. President, it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Not a one-way street. Oh, look, Mr. President is here. Here's Mr. President.
Those damn Chinese with the blue and white flag, always with the blue and white flag. Those Chinese that, always take me to war in the Middle East for some reason. I say it's odd. It's not Asia. It's the Middle East. Why am I at war here? They say we have a blue and white flag. It's so insane, man. It's clearly a distraction from what's going on right now, because why do the elections even matter if the guy that runs as the peace president, anti-war candidate, is going to take us to war for Israel?
Exactly.
It's just a nothing burger. And here's the thing. When I say that, I believe in election fraud and voter ID and stuff like that. I do. We can have disagreements on that, but this is clearly, I'm more scared of Trump than any foreign party right now. So.
Well, yeah, there's obviously a top-down effort now to subvert the midterms, and the reason for that is pretty obvious. It's because this party has absolutely nothing to run on. You have your ear closer to the ground in right-wing circles than I do, so you tell me if I'm wrong. I have not heard literally a single Republican politician make an affirmative case for the Republican Party this cycle. None. I've heard
totally accurate.
I've heard communism. I've heard the DSA is going to start a revolution, which is a joke. They're barely socialists, much less communists. I have not heard any Republican politician even attempt to make a case for why they should be trusted with power. And this is in keeping with what Massie has said. Hey, how could you be bitching about election fraud? We won the goddamn elections.
Right. They control all three branches of government. It's a bit absurd to think about. And we have this whole thing where they tell you, and just people on the right in general, they say, you better show up to vote, or the evil Mamdani is going to come beat the women in your city with a club. Literally, that's what they'll say to you. And they'll be like, I got to go to the polls to prevent that from happening. When in reality, your sons and daughters are dying overseas. You're broke. You can't buy gas. You can't go to the grocery store. There's nothing there for you. It's all an imaginary boogeyman.
They're building data centers in your backyard. They're putting up flock cameras.
Hold on. I was watching Fox News with my grandparents. I was watching Hannity with them, and an ad played. And it told me that if I don't support the data center, that I'm a Democrat. And I don't want to be a dirty Democrat commie.
Wow.
So I gotta support the data center. I'm not joking.
No, I believe you.
It's absurd. So
I believe you. The one thing that they could have touted as a win is the thing that Trump was too petulant to sign. It passed into law anyway, but the housing bill. That's the one thing that they could have maybe affirmatively run on, and it's probably not going to pay political dividends at this point because the market's not going to be affected in enough time. Well, but that was one thing they may have had, and he said no. Why did he say no? Because they wouldn't pass the SAVE Act. So, if we can't subvert the election, then we're not going to do what would be necessary to maybe win the election. They're clearly more interested in ruling by force than they are through any sort of exercise of democratic will. That's just completely obvious. They've made that obvious since day one, since they took over again.
Yeah, they lost about 30 to 40% of their coalition of libertarian leaning types, centrist leaning types, kind of America First leaning types. And all they have left are the evangelical Christian Zionists and the literal Jewish Zionists, the people that support Israel. And that's a very small contingent. Of course, you can look at places like Florida. You can look at places like New York, California. It's not representative of the vast majority of the country, even the middle of the country. And when you lose people, just look at the tweet that he sent out attacking Tucker, Candace, Megyn Kelly, and then my dad, right? That's literally, you're talking about an audience of probably 15 to 20 million people there, if not more. So if you're going to alienate those people and sub them out, I don't think they care about winning the elections at all. It's quite hilarious to me. It's a bank robbery. You don't care about what the people are doing when they're on the floor crying. You're just trying to take the money and get out of there. I think that's very clearly what's going on. I think the whole narrative, we got to fight to save our elections, we got to do it. Like, this could be the last time we ever have to worry about any of this, because we could be at nuclear war. The lunatics are running the asylum. I do believe that there is no plan.
Yeah, I agree. Cheryl Marshall says, I knew he would tackle on this because everything he said was a lie. And what it seemed like that was a last-ditch effort to get the SAVE Act passed. And now, as recess approaches, odds of the Save America Act passing sink to a new low. This act would have required physically presenting a passport, birth certificate for voter registration, 11% chance. Yeah, like I said, and like we covered on the last show, the only authority that the federal government has over elections comes from Congress. The executive branch cannot unilaterally decide to impose new rules, much less at the last minute like this, on the voting process. This is what Tom Tillis has said. He said, even if you pass the Save America Act, even if it passed at this point, there's no way you're going to get new rules implemented in time for the midterms. But this is something that Donald Trump will never let go, because he never lets anything go. And it seems like that was the motivation for that big speech, and that the rest was likely bluster. I do believe they're going to deploy ICE agents to the polls in certain areas. I do think they are going to try and sow as much chaos around these midterms as possible.
It's all a cartoon. Like, it's cartoon bad. It's as bad as you can be. And here's the thing. Trump, Mr. Mass Deportations, Trump has deported like far less people than Obama in a far more grotesque way. So like all these policies, that the things that they run on, the things that people voted for on the right, the entire Trump administration is making sure that you never get that original platform, because he's the inverse of it. So like, it's really sick, the idea of the ICE agents running around shooting the American citizens in the street, and then now at the polling places, when in reality, and I'm just going to give a real solution. Maybe you don't agree with it, or the audience won't agree with it, whatever. If you really don't want illegal immigrants here, then I don't know, make it so they can't work or buy a car. Like, seriously. And that wouldn't require you shooting anybody in the head. But they'd never do something like that, because it's not about that. They don't actually have that position. Their position is exploit the labor, give the people that we want vouchers, kick everyone else out in this brutal way to show our base that we're doing what they want. It's the famous Tim Pool quote, which is why I just view ICE as a really I won't use the expletive, but a F-word organization. It's my boot. I'm stomping on the ground. Yeah. That's such an iconic quote from Tim Pool, Timothy Pool, the man who talked to Netanyahu off the record. I just always quote that, because how can you support something like that?
No, the people who support that are small here. I'll work around that, even though we are gonna have to show that word later, because I'm going to show the Dave Chappelle thing trolling JD Vance, but I'll let him say it, not me. He's rich enough to deal with it. Right. But no, it is a movement of small men. It is a movement of broken men. It is a movement, like Hunter Biden said. I don't know if you saw that clip. I mean, I've been on this beat forever. I think it is a movement of closeted gay men. I'm not saying everyone is a closeted gay person, but I think that represents a real core of the movement. And the reason I emphasize closeted is because people who are openly gay don't carry this resentment with them. They don't carry they're not torturing themselves every second of every day, hiding who they are and projecting who they are in a very dishonest and destructive way. But these are clearly people who are very, very insecure about themselves, and they get off on seeing masked national police brutalize people with less power than them. That's what it is. Because it's not about the numbers. As you pointed out accurately, the deportation numbers are actually down from Obama.
Right. I think it's an authoritarian fetish. That's really what it is. Beyond even like just baseline sexuality, it's a worship of authority, and it's really weird to see that in people that like you're supposed to be somebody that is out there trying to tell the truth, right? And when you're dealing with people, whether it's Tim Pool, whether it's I won't put Ben Shapiro in there because like he's basically should be in like an IDF uniform, but just any of these people that are in media that hold these positions about government agencies represent me. Like the men with guns and badges, that's me. Like it's almost like you're living vicariously through it. It's very weird, is it not?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it is scary to see and disheartening to see, but Chris Hedges just had an article come out, and I think it was a summary of a recent interview he did, where he described this phenomenon as the stranger phenomenon, where, as you see an authoritarian shift in the government, you start noticing authoritarian shifts in your neighbors, in people who are only marginally informed. You start seeing people who you previously felt you had something in common with, friends, neighbors, just people in your sort of social periphery, start signing on to this completely cruel, fascistic program that makes you feel like a stranger in your own home. And what he was talking about was a case where this happened in Turkey. Right. I forget the exact context, but he's interviewing this woman who was basically driven into exile because, a lot of the peers in her network were either threatened or threatened with prosecution. So she had to leave. And she said what drove her to leave was not necessarily the character of the government, but the character of the entire society that then formed in the image of this authoritarian government. And that's kind of what he argues is starting to happen here, is you're starting to see society take on this character of a very broken psyche. Now, luckily, it's not happening in the numbers that the government would like, because their polling numbers are underwater now 2-1, but it still creates deep anxiety in the society to feel as though your neighbor fantasizes, as Tim Pool said, about having his boot on your neck. Like, what the fuck is that? That's not a healthy society. Can I come in here for a second? Yeah, sure, of course.
I want a white pill, because you're encapsulating everything about why the Trump neocon new MAGA experiment is destined to fail and is already failing. They wanted that response from the people. It's like, I'm a member of the party. I am ICE. I am the U.S. military bombing the school, and it's cool because it's righteous when we do it. People, vast majority, don't hold that attitude, as you're about to show with the polling. And I think that is representative of, like, people get negative about the apathy that's felt a lot in society. Because you talk to a vast majority of people, I try to make my mission talk to like 10 people every single day. Most of them are apathetic. Hey, man, I don't want to think about that. Politics is really rough. Because, yeah, it's rough. We're an evil empire, and we go overseas and kill people all the time. And we spend your money to do it, right? But generally, that feeling, I think, is a lot closer to disgust of the system than, an adoration of it. And I think that we're tilting more and more towards that direction. I see a lot of this because just my Twitter algorithm, just kind of like right-wing spaces in general. There's a whole wing of, like, they're trying to make neocon cool.
Yes.
It's bizarre. Like Jake Hilton, Misfit Patriot, Matt Forney. I could go on and name names. It is literally the same stuff you'd see in like 2003. 2003. Yes. So I think people recognize that as poisonous, but they are still trying to do it.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And that the clash of civilizations narrative is the best way to do that, because it takes the morality out of it. You just make it a question of survival. This is a civilizational struggle. The barbarians are at the gate, and you have to stop them, however morally you feel about it. This is now a question of your survival, and that is what they're trying to sell.
And then you're like, hey, but didn't we blow up the barbarians' elementary school and kill all their people? And didn't we sanction them and try to starve them and try to, destroy their civilization? And aren't they not at the gate? Aren't they retaliating, hitting a military base that we have in their area? And then people, like, they just kind of can't handle that. If they've been too propagandized, you break their entire world apart, because telling the truth, it should be simple. You only need a few sentences, right? It's not a complicated narrative. It's just like, Israel made us fight this war. Very simple.
Right. So, aren't we at their gate? I mean, whose gate here?
That's a phenomenal point. I really like that. I like that. I'm using that, stealing that myself.
There you go. You can have it, my friend. Professor Brown Note says U.S.-Canada tariff war proves we live in a demented cartoon. 25% on cars, alcohol, and cheese. FU, 50% on wine, hockey sticks, and cement. What's next? 1,000% on porn, Rubik's Cubes, and glue. Good one. Good one. Did you see on Twitter? That was funny. There's an obituary for this guy whose name was Richard Porn, and his nickname was Dick. It was Richard Dick Porn. That was his name.
Legend. Yeah. Shout out to Legend, R.I.P.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Hope he's in heaven.
Yeah, imagine so. I'm happy for everybody in heaven that he finally arrived. Actually,
Yeah,
so it's sad
exactly.
for him, but it's a good day in heaven. It's a fun day in heaven when Dick Porn arrives. I'm really impressed with your decision. Evolving and changing can be challenging. I find it frightening, actually. Personally, I'm against it. Maybe it's just me, but I try to
Real.
avoid it. There
Real.
you go. Yep. Yep. That's O. George. O. George is our resident based Israeli. He lives in Haifa in
Wow.
northern Israel, which is one of the most, it's one of the most diverse enclaves in Israel, where they have the most equitable mix of Arabs and Jews. That's where O. George is. Good to see you're safe there, George. Nocturnal Human, 2020 was a friend of Epstein versus a friend of Epstein. Hacking the election would have made no difference. It was already rigged. Yep. Well, you know what I think? I mean, I would like to get your opinion, because this is my theory. If Trump wanted to make a compelling case about the rigging of that election, I said this on the last show, I've said this in a few times. Regardless of what everybody feels about the COVID vaccine now, obviously, especially Trump's base, vehemently, anti the COVID vax, I think as a political question, the fact that I think it was the CDC, they announced that vaccine was ready to go like 2 weeks after Election Day in 2020. And I believe if they had announced that before the election, Trump would have won walking away with it. He would have won, because he would have been able to tout Warp Speed as this big success. And a lot of people would have exhaled, oh, I guess we're not going to need a mask in the supermarket anymore, right? Now, irrespective of how everything transpired and what everybody feels about that now, I do think that was probably a political decision, was to not announce that the vaccine was ready before the vote. And that probably cost him the election, but he's never made that point. What do you think about that?
It's a very touchy issue because he's the father of the vaccine,
Right,
which
exactly.
is a shot that literally everyone on my side, myself included, hates. Right.
So that's where that comes in, right?
Right. Here's what I think. I think that they both cheat. I think both the establishment right and the establishment left cheat. I look at Massie and the Ed Galvin election. I don't buy that. I look at Lindsey Graham. I don't buy that either. You can quibble with that or whatever. I think both sides cheat. And the reality is Trump in the beginning in 2016 won in a referendum against the Iraq war. That's why he was elected president. And you can look at his first term, and I know there's plenty of people here, myself included now, I hate him too, so I'm part of the cool club. But I know there's a lot of people that hated Trump back then and whatnot. You can look at him, he lost money, right? He lost money, he got all the legal problems and whatnot, and he had the Russiagate hell, right? He comes back, and I think he was given the Reagan deal. We'll let you remake the party in your image. You will become what it means to be a Republican. MAGA and Republican will be synonymous. They'll mean the same thing. They used to not. And this is the distinction, because MAGA has become America first. And this is a complicated term because that's the name of Fuentes' show, which has like a decade of history. It's also an ancient political term, Pat Buchanan, Ronald Reagan, you name it. But people that subscribe to the original Trump label, that questioned elections and questioned integrity and just corruption in general, we now look at Trump as the as the peak of what it means to be all of those things. So I just don't trust any of it in general. I think it's all rigged. I think it's all cooked. I still think voting matters. And I think that if there's a big enough turnout, especially big enough popular movement, I'm a real believer in a third party option, that we could make some serious societal change. And that's what I root for and campaign for. But that two-party system's evil, clearly.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Me Shoot Skeet, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Empire We Are says the National Security Act of 1947 is the legal architecture for American empire. Until we attack and dismantle that abomination, everything else is window dressing. Thank you, Empire We Are.
Good quote.
Pete Sweet says, thanks for the house phone number. If I'm overseas but still able to get straight through, human answered on both calls to D.C. and my congressman fast. Okay, that's good. Well, at least they have people manning the switchboards. That's good. I'm sure they're getting a lot of calls. Anti-Imperialist Network says IRGC disabling early warnings on GCCs before Israeli strikes. Thank you for that. Rex, you have to choose AOC or Vance 2028.
I can't say the other thing because it'll get us banned off YouTube. What I'd like to do, but no, I'm not voting in that election. It's over for me.
Because he's choosing none of the above.
Yeah.
Peter Monahan, just so effing tired of listening to this voter fraud. Take voting offline. Return to paper ballots with ID in person, except for military. Problem solved. I am for paper ballots. I am for paper ballots because I think there should be a paper trail. I don't think it should just disappear into a digital, system of zeros and ones. I think paper ballots are a very good idea.
Look at
I've always
Europe.
been for paper ballots.
They in Europe they do same day paper ballot elections, and they do a really good job of them too. We could do the same thing.
Yeah, look, I am very sympathetic to calls for election reform that add transparency and efficiency to the process. Like in Brazil, literally the minute the polls close, they basically just release the results, push of a button, boom, you know who wins. They don't have all the votes yet, so if it's like extremely close, the count might carry on. But you have 95+% of cases, an election in Brazil, you know who won within 5 minutes of the polls shutting down. Why can't we do that here? Like, why is it take days and days and days to count votes?
We are fish tank like sea monkey people. That's who we are. We're Truman Show. Like we're just like an alien has us in a terrarium and it gives us like sugar water as treats. Like that's right. What it is. You got to watch the show. You got to have the anticipation, right, of waiting, even though we could know immediately. So
yeah, no, it is bizarre. It is bizarre, and I definitely am a believer that there could be big reforms there. Okay, let's take a look here. Where is it? Okay, beautiful. Just in case, says, does Rex believe Sneeko should be deported like his father has called?
No,
for?
I don't believe he should be deported.
There you go.
I don't believe in that.
Does he believe this sort of rhetoric emboldens Zionist neocon war aims by demonizing Muslims? What do you think?
That's a good question. So here's how I look at it. Like, I'm friends with Suleiman. I have a lot of respect for Suleiman, admiration for him. We disagree on matters, right? I'm a Christian. He's a Muslim. We have different belief system. That doesn't preclude me for having a relationship with someone or even considering someone to be a very good friend, right? As far as the Christian-Muslim divide and that fight was set up by the British and by the Zionists, by really Jewry to make us fight. Right. So I don't have any beef with the Muslim brother or sister in the same way I hope they don't have any beef with me, because we're all created by God and I don't believe they should die. So when we go and do these wars on their countries, when we destabilize their nations, and then they have refugees that come to our nations and cause problems, that's just a system that somebody else set up, and I'm against the whole thing. So that's my position on that. I abhor what's happening in the Middle East, and it's a real tragedy. And I think Sneeko has done a good job talking about Palestine and stuff like that. But here's the thing. Like, I'm a Christian, but there's a reason why I don't like pontificate about God or preach on my stream. It's because I'd feel very hesitant to do that when making moral grand claims and attributing them to the supreme creator of the universe, or, even referencing him like that. And I think Sneeko is somebody that does not exemplify the values of the religion that he professes to hold. So that's my view on Sneeko. I don't think he should be deported.
All right. There you go. That's fair. I don't know anything. I have to play like Trump did with David Duke. I don't know anything about Sneeko. I never heard of Sneeko. we did a segment on him, but I haven't followed him much.
Can I say something else about that? Here's like, first off, like, I'm my own person, right? And like my dad's beliefs, I disagree with him on a lot of things, right? Like, we're not identical people. And I like to think that I've changed his mind on a variety of subjects over the years. But when it comes to somebody like Sneeko or somebody like Nick Fuentes, or like these people that have kind of their own communities online, I'm not really a part of them. So I'm not that familiar with the people as well. So like, I'm also like, when I saw that Sneeko interview, that was the first time I watched a Sneeko stream. So I also am learning about him as well. So.
Yeah. No, of course. No, I mean, Rex, it's funny. For those of you who don't know, Rex used to super chat our show as your old YouTube name, Conor McGregor Was Never My Friend.
Yes.
And he used to talk about how he was like, worked at InfoWars, and now he's, talking about us at InfoWars. And I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy how someone at InfoWars loves the show. I figure maybe it's like a sound guy or a lighting guy or a crew guy. No, it's actually Alex Jones's son. Super chatting us. So yeah, no, of course, man. I mean, it just the heartbreak that was involved in us personally, like when we just found out that Trump betrayed us on everything. You can call us like naive and stupid for believing in the 2024 campaign promises, but we really did. And InfoWars has always been like the first report that I ever did as a kid when I was 8 years old was called Terrorism 101. Okay, it's always been an anti-war movement, anti-war show. We talk about globalism, we talk about these wars and stopping them.
That's really what that means. So for me, growing up, I literally worshiped Trump. Like, we were Olympic water carrying champions for the Trump administration, literally. And I say that openly because it's 100% true and it can't be denied. I literally, in 2024, the day that the assassination attempt happened, I pulled the cross out of my shirt and told people to vote for him because I thought he was going to stop the Ukraine war.
Right.
I truly, in my heart of hearts, believed that and believed in the message that I was saying. But sitting here, I have to be intellectually honest. I have to tell you the truth. We were lied to. We were wrong. We were fools. So for people like me, if you can get somebody like me to leave that movement and to completely abandon it and say, F Trump, I spit on you. I don't want anything to ever do with you again. I'll never support you, never support Marco Rubio, never support JD Vance, Chud Vance, as I call him, ever. Right. If you can lose me, then I believe I'm a good barometer for the country. You know, like, you've lost your coalition when you've lost me, and not just me, literally every single person that I knew growing up. You may disagree with our values, but we do hold them. You see, and they did not hold these values, and they lied and said that they were us. So it's a profound element of betrayal. And to tie it back into like the Islam Sneeko thing, whatever, when I see stuff like this, I just laugh at it. I was like, this is not important at all. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, we need to be uniting on the basis of all being lied to, all being defrauded by our government. What, Christian, Muslim, whatever you are, black, white, Latino, Asian, straight, gay, whatever. It's time for this all to end. We're all being raped. Sorry to use that word. I know
That's all right. That's all right. We're an hour in. I don't think they'll catch it. It'll get worse from here.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's funny, you know, what I said. As soon as Trump won, I said, okay, at this point, the key to combating Zionist influence is going to be the anti-Israel right, because the right is in power now. The anti-Israel right, the Tuckers, the Candaces, whatever you think of, the Joe Kents, who you just interviewed,
right,
you know, they're the ones who are in a position now to drive a wedge through the majority coalition. They're the ones who are in a position now to break the ruling class of the moment. That wasn't true when Biden was president. When Biden was president, those pro-Palestine protests during the campaign season were crucial to breaking that majority coalition. Now, unfortunately, that gave way to something that has just been, I think, quantifiably worse. That's not an expression of regret for not having voted for Kamala Harris. I certainly don't regret not having voted for Kamala Harris. But be that as it may, you always have to look at, okay, how can you put as much pressure on the system as you can? And that involves driving wedges through the majority coalition. So even though a guy like Joe Kent is not rooted in the same theory as a lot of like left-wing pro-Palestine people, that really is an argument for another day, I think. Because he's the only one who had the guts to do what anyone in this government who wanted any credibility left should have done, which is say, you know what, this is bullshit. Iran poses no threat. I quit. And to me, that is the bar. I don't hear shit about fucking JD Vance. Oh, Vance is better than Rubio. No, this Iran war, that's a red line, man. If this wasn't enough for you to say, you know what, I'm out, I'm not going to be a part of this, then to me, you should be flipping hamburgers for the rest of your professional days until those social security checks start coming in.
The proof requirement for me, the bar that I require to be reached is this. And we're quoting Joe Kent here in his resignation letter. My wife, Shannon, died in a war manufactured by Israel.
Right.
Okay. So that's not just an acknowledgement of, oh, this war is stupid, evil, we shouldn't be there, time to pull out. It's an acknowledgement that the past actions were wrong as well, and that they were tied to the collective cause that's also happening right now, present, and in the future. It is acknowledgement of the whole timeline that is required. So that's what I want to hear from people. And when I hear that, I'm still not 100% trusting anybody, right? But I'm willing to say, hey, is this somebody that can be part of our new movement? And like that's a level of accountability, because there's no coming back from that. There's no APAC after that.
Right.
So
Vientikis, cities will back down on flock cameras and then get accent. That's why I say let's just call them Epstein eyes and sing the Hall & Oates song. Epstein eyes are watching. I like
you got to
that.
get rid of those
Epstein's
things. That makes me so mad, man. The flock cameras.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They're coming up everywhere now. Trump, I have the memory of a goldfish, the best goldfish anyone's ever seen. I forget what I even had for breakfast, let alone what I did a week ago. Yes, that's right.
I went for a swim, the greatest swim. Can you believe it? I have the biggest bowl, the most flakes that get fed to me. I'm the best fish in the world. All right, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. You got him down. You've. I feel like most people's Trump impression is kind of dated to like the 10 years ago Trump, but you have like the aging Trump down because you put a little more gravel in his voice. Like he sounds a little older in your version, which is accurate. He is older.
I love my impressions. I have to work on them more. The Trump impression, the modern Trump, like broken Trump impression it's a real rumble. It comes forward like that. It's very fast and interjective because that's whenever he's talking, he's kind of talks. I'm tired.
Yeah, that's good.
But then he wakes up and he gets angry. And then he speaks fast and loud.
That's good. You got both down because he's got the screaming over the helicopter propeller voice too. Because a lot of times when they interview the president, they're screaming over the
Keaton Weiss, Dear Dissidents, what a loser program. Completely low ratings. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Can you believe it? Oh boy. All right. Let's move right on along here. We got 1455 strong in the YouTube chat. We got 493 over on Rumble. Please do smash that like button. We're at 445. Yes, please do smash that button, everybody. All right. Let's move right on along here. All right, so here's some reporting on how the war is going. I don't know which stage of grief we're in. I guess we're still in denial, or maybe this is not denial. Maybe this is just a conscious cover-up of the cost of this war. But there's a lot that's broken in the past couple of days surrounding just how forthcoming, quote-unquote, the government has been with how the war effort is going. New York Times reports Pentagon withheld dozens of military injuries in days leading up to attack that killed U.S. troops. This is by our friend Dave DeCamp at antiwar.com. Please go check out their site. They are fantastic at what they do. The New York Times reported on Monday that the Pentagon didn't disclose that U.S. troops had been injured by Iranian attacks on Jordan in the week leading up to the missile strikes that killed at least 2 U.S. soldiers and left 1 missing. U.S. officials told the Times that in the days before the deadly January 17th attack, Iranian strikes on U.S. facilities in Jordan injured dozens of U.S. service members and damaged multiple U.S. military helicopters. Throughout that same week, U.S. Central Command released multiple statements on the U.S. airstrikes against Iran and other military operations, but made no mention of the injuries following a pattern of the U.S. hiding casualties throughout the war. A day after the deadly attack in Jordan, another U.S. soldier was killed in Iraq during what CENTCOM called a controlled detonation of unexploded ordnance from a downed Iranian one-way attack drone, bringing the total number of U.S. troops killed in the war in recent days to at least 4, a number that includes the soldier missing in Jordan, as CENTCOM said it found remains it was working to identify. The U.S. military identified the other 2 Army soldiers killed in Jordan, which included a 19-year-old woman, Private Isabella Gonzalez of Carrollton, Texas, who died on Friday. The other soldier, First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan, 25, of Iwa Beach, Hawaii, died of his wounds on Saturday. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell initially rejected the Times report as baseless and malicious, but then acknowledged that nearly 100 U.S. troops have been injured in the war since July 7th, though he downplayed the injuries. So that's over 100 injuries, nearly 100, pardon me, in just the past 2 weeks. So he tweets out, while nearly 100 service members were deemed to have some degree of injury since July 7th, 2026, 96% have returned to duty. They are determined to get back in the fight. The vast majority of injuries experienced were minor concussions. Further updates will be posted on the Defense Casualty Analysis System. God is good, he says. Hold
on.
Good.
All right. They are determined to get back in the fight. So the fight is where they're parked at a military base that has no air defense, that Pete Hegseth on the record admits that we have no air defense after lying and saying that we did. And they just get blown up. They're what we call fish in a barrel, sitting ducks. I don't know, another metaphor for it. That's basically what you are. But they're ready to get back to the fight. Who are they fighting exactly? What are they getting ready? Are they getting ready for a ground invasion? No. So they're aiding in logistics support and offensive missile capability. No. They're just over there. They're literally just over there because Trump has no plan.
Right.
He has no plan.
Right.
Like, that's the reality. We all know this. So
Yeah. Yeah. And this brings to mind, from time to time, I like to just remind the audience, ask yourself what the MAGA base would be saying if a Democrat were president and the Pentagon spokesperson came out and said, yeah, 100 injuries, but they're minor concussions, they'll be back, no big deal. Just imagine what the reaction would be.
Well, you don't have to imagine. Think about Afghanistan.
Well, yep, exactly. Bingo. And that is a great point, because now the death toll from this operation has surpassed the death toll from the Afghanistan pullout on the U.S. Side. Yeah. And look at how much hay they made out of that. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. I said the Afghanistan pullout was a complete disaster. That was really the beginning of the end of Joe Biden's presidency. People forget, Biden had, it's ancient history now. He had a pretty long honeymoon period. The numbers were 55% positive before that Afghanistan pullout. And that's when they took a nosedive and they never recovered. But imagine what the reaction would be among the MAGA base if a Democratic official or an official in a Democrat administration had just been so flippant and cavalier about 100 troop injuries. Yeah, they're just minor concussions. Nothing worth telling you about. They'll be back. They just hit their head. They'll be back on the battlefield. And on the battlefield, to your point, what does that mean? It means they're going to go back to their bases, which will be hit again? You're implying they're going to be hit again if you're saying they're going to get back in the fight. According to the Pentagon's numbers, at least 18 U.S. service members have been killed, and more than 500 have been wounded in the Iran war since President Trump launched it on February 28th. U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran in that time have killed around 3,500 Iranians, including more than 50 since the U.S. renewed strikes several weeks ago. In April, Iranian officials said nearly half of those killed were civilians, including the 120 school children in the U.S. bombing of an elementary school in Manab, in southern Iran. And good on Dave for including that in the report, because it's always important to keep perspective about that. The civilian toll in Iran is horrific, as it is in all of these horrible wars. But here's the 19-year-old who was killed. The Pentagon identifies 2 U.S. service members killed in Iranian attacks on an American base. That is Isabella Gonzalez. Nick Sorter paying his respects to Isabella Gonzalez. MAGA, they love Latinos when the Latinos die for Israel. Those are the ones they have a lot of respect for. As long as you die for Israel, you're good. Other than that, we're going to make jokes about how ICE should come and sack you. But yeah, here she was last year, graduating from high school, like a kid. Is what you have to, you're talking about 19, 20-year-old kids.
Murdered for the Greater Israel Project.
Yep.
100%. It's just disgusting, man.
There she is, getting her high school diploma last year.
Never going to have kids, never going to have, a great career, never going to have a husband, because her future was snuffed out so some boomer in Palm Beach could tweet about killing the Muslims. So, pretty bad.
Mel, the Village Crazy lady on X, she tweeted, she joined the army after Trump won, probably figuring that she would never have to go because he campaigned against these kinds of things,
Peace president.
Yep, but it was not to be. Martyr Maid says there's no conceivable strategic goal in Iran that was worth this girl's life. To which this chud here, Wilfred Riley, says, oh, for fuck's sake, is the right now directly saying things like nothing is worth dying for and no gain of land or peace is worth one child's life? I really want people who talk like this to volunteer and go. If you really feel this way, then put your money where your fat fucking mouth is and sign up.
Yeah, we need to have a battle bus like Fortnite, and they can go sign up and they can get airdropped over Tehran naked with an assault rifle, and then they can figure it out. That's what I call for. If you're going to go be big, brave man, then how about you go enlist in the U.S. military? Even better than going over there and fighting, you could go be the person that notifies the family member, right?
Right.
Hey, your family, your son, daughter, wife, husband has been murdered in a war for the Greater Israel Project, but it's good. And tell them why you support the war, because maybe they just don't understand as well as you do. How sick is that?
No, it's absolutely depraved. It's absolutely depraved. And now with modern technology, Pete Hegseth wants a bunch of high T he-men in the military. You don't really have to be that anymore to push a button or do whatever, So like I believe look, if Ukraine is taking, people who are in their 50s and 60s and throwing them on the front lines, I think we should implement the same rule here. Hey, anyone who supports the war should be pressured to go and sign up. I think that's the least that you can do. I think if you're advocating for other people's kids to be put in harm's way like that and killed at 19 fucking years old, then you should have the courage of your convictions to sign up.
This is why it's an irrational position. I had a caller call in this morning who's called in before who advocates using essentially secret super weapons that he proposes that we have. And I do believe in some of them. Examples would be like rods from God, like from the G.I. Joe movie. And he's like, well, we have these things. Why don't we just destroy this country? We can do it. We're already at war. We can't get out of the war. We certainly can't do a peace agreement. We can just kill them all, right? And you listen to that. Let me give you the same logic in an analogy. Hey, I'm robbing this bank. I just pistol whipped this person in the head and took their money. Hey, I can get out. The door's still open. The cops aren't here. Isn't that cool? Just because you can do something technically doesn't mean you should. And Trump kind of takes the idea of the nuclear weapon or the idea of the ground invasion, all of this sick stuff, the tariff, the blockade, the whatever, just because he has it available in his toolbox, he'll do it. And the people that support that or support him because of that, they get off on that kind of power fantasy that we were talking about earlier. That's the relationship.
Of course.
In a nutshell.
Of course. So here's Donald Trump asked about the death of these soldiers who were just killed. And he's not quite as crass as that Wilford Riley guy, but not much better. Not much better. We feel very badly, but.
Well, we feel very badly, but those great people, those great patriots were out there fighting that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Iran has been very, very badly damaged. They've lost everything almost militarily. They've got very little.
Yeah, no, that's what they really believed in their heart of hearts when they signed up, that we're going to go die so that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon.
Well, hold on, because I thought we obliterated their military and all of it was gone. So why are more Americans dying, Mr. Trump?
Yep.
I think he looks like a great horny toad lizard now.
He does. He actually does. That is a good observation. And so here's Mike Johnson being asked about the state of the war. And at what point are you willing to bring an authorization of military force up on the House floor for a vote, since now it looks like this war is heating up at a pretty bad time, at a pretty inconvenient time for the Republican-led House. We're going to get into more of the polling in the next segment, but that does definitely loom over this, at least from Mike Johnson's standpoint. So here he is pathetically trying to spin this war as being almost over.
You repeatedly said that you trust the administration's handling of the war with Iran. We're now 5 months in, and the U.S. death toll has surpassed the withdrawal of Afghanistan. Given that, at what point are you willing to put an AUMF on the floor or vote for a War Powers Act resolution to try and rein this in?
The administration is working very hard. The Commander-in-Chief and the whole Department of War, they're working very hard to bring this to a resolution. There's a lot of discussions about how that will be done. We're all closely watching those developments, of course. I don't think an AUMF is in order right now. I think we need to bring this to a resolution. Look, I think it's important for all of.
And how, as Speaker of the House, could you help facilitate bringing this to a resolution? By passing an AUMF, but you won't do that. You won't do that. It's just pathetic how paralyzed these people are. Even as Trump's numbers go down the tubes, they will not do anything, and we know why. I mean, these people are bought by Israel, just as Trump is bought by Israel.
This is an illustration of how the entire political system is fake, because we're talking about the elections in the last segment. This guy don't care about that, clearly. So, like, all these people are unelectable in under 4 years. So, like, they're robbing the bank while they can.
Yep, exactly. And that's why I told you, don't worry about that R word, because we're going to use it again, because this meme goes pretty hard. But I think it's worth showing.
Yep.
The soldier hugging their child. I'll miss you, but I need to go to Iran to kill the kids like you. If I don't, then the people who rape kids like you might go to jail. Exactly. That's what all this is for. That's what all this is for. So when you see a 19-year-old girl get killed, 1 year out of high school. That's what it's for. That's just the reality. That's just the reality. There's no glory in it. There's no glamour in it. It's just unconscious.
Right. And here, I'll add another element to it. It's not even, there's no conquest in it because we're not fighting a war for ourselves. We're fighting a war for another country. So like, even to the people on the right that are like imperialist or whatever, and believe in this sick idea of empire, it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi says to Anakin Skywalker when he becomes Darth Vader, your new empire? It's not for you. It's for the old evil wizard guy who convinced you to do it. That's it. I like analogy and metaphor a lot because it's just a powerful tool to explain like very complex concepts to people. Like it's literally just that. Like we have turned ourselves over to pure evil.
Absolutely. It is nihilism. And when you look at like what they're planning on doing in Cuba, I mean, it's just there's no rationale for it other than just nihilism. 60 Years of Red is the poster of that meme.
Right.
In addition, more dishonesty here. The Pentagon hiding missile shortage from White House. Insiders fear. So the Telegraph, which is a UK publication, actually has the exclusive on this. They got a couple of sources, it looks like. The Pentagon is hiding the scale of missile shortages from the White House, insiders fear. The U.S. president is under pressure to hit back at Iran after the deaths of 3 U.S. service members over the weekend. But rumors are spreading across the administration that the Pentagon is concealing a shortage of interceptor missiles, which are needed to resume the war. There are also suggestions that the White House does not want to know about the scale of the shortfall. Sharing bad news or realistic news doesn't seem to end well for anybody, an insider told The Telegraph. Another said a culture of silence was causing problems for Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Defense Secretary. Oh, you mean an unstable, belligerent drunk doesn't handle bad news well? Wow. Who saw that coming? See, all these choices, all these cabinet appointments, you know, kind of felt like these cool sort of punk rock maverick picks. Oh, we're going to pick Pete Hegseth, the TV guy for Secretary of Defense. You know, that's all well and good if you don't start any wars, you know. But when you actually start a war like this, when you start a disastrous war like this, those appointments tend to come back around to hurt you. Speaking of Pete Hegseth, the Pentagon sinking billions into Iran war is quickly running short on cash. So now you're running low on missiles, and despite a $1.1 trillion defense budget, now they're running short on cash because you know what? These wars cost money. I remember back in my day, back when I was a spring chicken, back when I was your age, Rex, we could fight a war of choice for $250 million a day. You can get a newspaper for 50 cents. You can get a coffee for $1.50, and you can kill Arabs for $250 million a day. Nowadays, forget it. Nowadays, it's $1 billion. Nowadays, it's $1 billion. Can't do anything anymore. It's not like it used to be.
It's $2 billion now. I heard my dad talk about it this morning at 11 or yesterday.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's the estimate, I think, is 2.2 a day.
Wow.
Pretty bad.
2.2 a day. So now the Pentagon faces an urgent budget shortfall caused largely by the war in Iran, with some critical lines of funding set to run out within weeks, even as President Donald Trump escalates the conflict with Tehran, according to lawmakers and current and former U.S. officials. The funding crunch is already leading the Pentagon to limit training and maintenance that help maintain military readiness, according to 4 current and former officials, speaking on the condition of anonymity to candidly describe the budget constraints. The White House has asked Congress for an immediate infusion of $67 billion to help cover the costs of the war, but lawmakers are gridlocked over how to proceed. The House plans to leave Washington on Thursday for a month-long recess, leaving any deal on military funding weeks away at the earliest. So they're just asking for $67 million. Hey, look, it's like asking dad for money to go to the movies. Hey, we need $67 billion. Can you float us $67 billion? We can end homelessness for half that. But if you demand that, you're a communist who's now going on a list somewhere because you want to take over the country. But no, $67 billion in a pinch because we need it because we're running out of money for this. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Is that tied into the 2027 budget, or is that like right now immediate infusion?
I think it's a stopgap right now is what they're
Wow.
asking for.
Okay,
That's
so
the way it's reported anyway.
So we have like $1 trillion next year. I think it's more money than we spent on World War II. I think it's close to $2 trillion in 2027, which is why I ask. And it's still not enough money. They failed 7 audits.
Yep. Well, look at how far this has gone on. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing, but it's not amazing. They said this was going to be 4 weeks. So, all right, if you figure it's going to go, all right, the war's going to last 45 days and it costs $1 billion a day. Even if it costs $2 billion a day, we should be able to get this done for 90 days. Never goes that way. They said this about the Iraq war. They said it's going to take 6 days, 6 weeks, maybe 6 months. At the price tag that this has on it, yeah, of course, it's gonna bankrupt the Pentagon. I mean, you can't just sustain these efforts forever if they're costing that much money per day. Not to mention all of the other functions of the government. So here's Donald Trump back in March claiming that Iran's missiles are gone. Back in March,
24 ships. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no Air Force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone.
who are these people behind them? Is this the Homo League rugby team? What is this? They came for a photo op? I don't know who these are.
They look kind of unsettled.
Yeah. They look like they don't really want to be at a political event.
The communications are gone. Missiles are gone. Launches are gone.
Yeah, all gone. And here we are today. This hot off the press, July 21st, 11:23 a.m. So there are no signs that Iran's ready to stop fighting. So what's the plan? Let's hear the latest from the commander-in-chief.
No signs that Iran is ready to stop fighting. So what is the plan? Is the plan to just keep bombing until they give up?
There are no signs. What, do you know something that I don't know?
Well, they continue to attack our allies and
You
kill
don't know
Americans.
what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it.
Oh,
because
is that
they're
right?
getting Decimated.
Oh,
you don't
that's
get
right.
that when you listen to your fake station, but
You don't get that they're desperate to make a deal because they're decimated. You don't hear that when you listen to your fake station. You say this as reports are coming out that you're running out of missiles, you're running out of money, troops are now getting killed, and our allies in the region are suffering infrastructural damage to desalination plants. Now the Houthis are going to block the Saudi oil routes, which is going to plunge the global economy even further into the shithole. And you got the fucking balls to look at someone and say, yeah, well, they're desperate for a deal, and you don't know that because you only read the fake news.
We've had
He's a mad king at this point. This is just absolute madness at this point.
We've had all the renovations at the White House. We had the UFC fight, the ballroom they're building. You can't tell me they haven't hollowed out one of these mini rooms into a place where they have like a terrarium, a giant heat lamp, and a rock that he crawls on top. Like he looks like a lizard. He's lizard maxing. Does he not? And he looks like the one that I see in my backyard all the time. And I'm like, hello, Mr. Trump. How are you doing?
Like a bearded dragon.
I used to have those as kids. Exactly. But here's the thing. I'll just give a black and white example of why he's lying and why he's wrong, and we all know it. So the CNN number is 55% of all our air defense interceptors have been used. Of course, I go by Larry Johnson's estimate, which is 95%. But let's seed the number. Let's give him the number, right? So if we use over half of our air defense in 39 days of a war, how many more days of a war can we fight before we have no air defense?
Right.
Not to mention the air defense doesn't work and it's all a fugazi, but just giving them everything they need for their argument, it still doesn't work on the record. So that's just dispelling his magic there a little bit.
Yep. Let's take a look at this because he talks a little more.
No signs that Iran is ready to stop fighting. So what is the plan? Is the plan to just keep bombing until they give up?
There are no signs. What, do you know something that I don't know?
Well, they continue to attack our allies and
You
kill
don't know
Americans.
what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it because they're getting decimated. You don't get that when you listen to your fake station, but you don't know anything.
So talks are
you know
still
something
possible,
that I don't
likely?
know? Do you know something I don't know?
Well, she's asking you because you're the president. So, like, you might know stuff that you can relay to the press. That's kind of their job. Their job is not to know things in advance. If they knew things, they wouldn't have to ask you.
I will tell you, they want to desperately meet, and until they're ready to meet in a meaningful way, we have no interest in even.
Great. That's really outstanding update. Wow. From the completely decimated nation of Iran.
Is that today?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
That is right before we went on the air. I just caught it.
So what was up a month ago? Actually, 6 weeks ago. It's crazy, longer than a month. What was up with the MOU thing? What was up with that? You know, he signed it in Versailles. Very reminiscent of, you know, other events that have happened throughout history.
Yep.
What was that all about, Mr. Trump? Because, they're crazy. Don't negotiate with them. When they're ready to be real, we'll talk. Sounds like we're the ones that aren't ready to be real because we violated the framework that we agreed to negotiate on, right?
Well, it was Israel who did it. Israel sabotaged it immediately, which everybody knew they would, which is why people didn't have much hope for that. That was a 60-day MOU. During which I guess Trump hoped he could wiggle out of it. He clearly wants to wiggle out of it. What's amazing about this, man, is that once they signed that MOU, he did that amazing press conference at I think it was the G7, where he has Rubio and Lutnick and Bessent, all three of them standing behind him. And he's talking about how, we can't keep the war going because it's going to destroy the economy. I'm going to be Herbert Hoover. Like
4 weeks.
Yeah, he says everything. Like he basically proves in that press conference that he understands how politically destructive it is for him to continue the war. And now he's going to try and just like memory hole that and be like, I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. We have to fight. Like you already revealed to everybody that you know how this ends. And now you're going to do it anyway. This is what compromise looks like. I'm sorry. Like this is the only explanation that makes any sense to me at all, is that he is just being dragged into this because he has to be.
It's a step beyond. There's also the element of it's fun now, right? Like it's the Stockholm syndrome problem. Like he is that now. He is Netanyahu. They might as well be the same person.
Right.
They may disagree with each other. Do we not fight with each other in our own heads sometimes? You know, conflicted. This other thing. But at the end of the day, you know, they're one unit. So.
Yep. That is the state of things right now. Comrade Cranky says, I live in Texas and both my senators, Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, are owned by the Israel lobby, as is Greg Abbott, the governor. They are so evil. Well, Rex is a Texas boy too.
I'd like to do my apology here, and you'll very rarely see me apologize because it's generally bad practice, but I have to do it here. This is my moment here. I voted for Ted Cruz. I didn't know any better. I just checked the name. I did.
Right.
So,
and that would have been what,
man?
2018 was that? 2018 or 2024 was when he was up for re-election.
2024. I voted for him. I just didn't think anything of it. You know, I really regret that. I was a real fool. So.
Yeah, well, he's another one. I mean, you saw that Tucker interview. I mean, he is just as crazy. Did you see the tweet that came out? This was before October 7th. This was like a while back. Where he's like, on July 4th. Apparently, July 4th was also the raid on Entebbe, the same day on the calendar. And so he's like wishing Americans a happy 4th of July, but devoting the majority of that tweet to commemorating the Israeli raid on Entebbe. It's just crazy.
What's really important is them, you know, on the day of our independence.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
To the super chatter that's saying plug Suleiman. I love Suleiman. I'm having Suleiman on tomorrow on War Room. I'll be hosting War Room tomorrow, the Alex Jones Network show in the afternoon, because Harrison is out. We're going to have him on. He's been doing, all right. Imagine being the only Western journalist to be in every city, town, province of the largest funeral procession in human history. Think about that. So he was there on the ground for the funeral of Ayatollah Khamenei. So I'm going to ask him about that. He's interviewed the Yemeni people. He's interviewed the Iranian people. He's interviewed everybody now in person over there. And he was over there when it started again. So I would talk to him about that as well. Like he heard the stuff going down in Tehran. So pretty heavy.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow at 4 p.m. He'll join me. Central.
Cool. Awesome. Michael Castillo, shout out to Rex Jones. I bought 3 InfoWars t-shirts before Ben bought it. Ben Collins sucking cock. We are all Persia. I don't know who Ben Collins is.
The shirts are classic. We always say wearing the shirts is an adventure, and that's true for good or bad. So
yes. Operation Mockingbird says America will consume itself. It never atones for its original sins of genocide and slavery. James Baldwin. Thank you.
It does have to stop. It does have to stop. I do agree. Like that, the attitude of might makes right is a real problem in this country. So I think you can deal with that without having a hatred for the country itself. It's a complicated topic for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And this is what I say, like people, these debts are on Rex and his ilk's hands. That's kind of.
Here's the thing. Really quick.
I know.
I'm graduating class of 2020. I've only been able to vote for 6 years of my life. I have had positive political intentions, and I am pro-life, anti-murder, like America first. It's what I believe in. I love my country, and I love everyone around the world. So I don't see how my government stealing my birthright from me, taking my rights from me, and then trying to make me proud of being a slave by killing other people. I see that honestly as the ultimate form of dehumanization. And that's why the Americans, the Palestinian cause, it's very similar, right? We're occupied. They've had everything taken from them but their dignity, and we have everything but our dignity here. That's how I kind of see that. So I don't have any blood on my hands.
That's very well put. That is very, very well put. Very well put. Deep Green VO says, once the flag draped coffins start coming in, level 5 of all levels of hell will be coming home to roost for the duopoly, and a reckoning.
Totally agree.
Is coming.
The two-party system's over.
Here we go. Crunklack. There's no way Alex Jones and his son Rex really believed Trump wasn't full of shit. I knew. You're telling me the guy who was dedicated decades of his life to researching the inner workings of the USA government didn't know. Rex is a liar. Well, there you go.
We were wrong. Yeah. We were wrong about Trump 100%. Think about getting deplatformed in 2017, being sued in 2018, not having a voice, not having anybody to fight for you. And then in 2024, you have the same 2016 energy come back. Do you not see how that could be intoxicating?
Well, look, my attitude towards all of this is like, look, I mean, it's a self-defeating attitude to have. Like,
sure.
Okay, so you lost the election, which is a representation of the culture and the mood. Like, I'm not saying elections are the end-all be-all, but okay, the anti-Trump movement lost. So if you won't accept anybody from the Trump movement into your circle, how do you plan on winning any power ever again? Like, by definition, you were in the minority, which means you must convince people who are part of the majority to peel off and join you. So how do you plan on doing that if you insist that there's no room in your space for people who have come around to your position? To me, that's a very self-destructive thing. It's a very self-destructive way of looking at politics.
If an honest admission and recollection of the fault is not enough, then it's just a purity test. And I don't subscribe to those.
Right, exactly.
So
exactly. I mean, look, time only moves one way, and that's forward. That's it. Like, that's the bottom line. Like, you can't go back in time. And, I have made political decisions that I regret as well. The bottom line is if you don't allow for change in your direction, then what are you doing? That's not actually politics. That's not all you're doing at that point is seeking emotional affirmation online, which is what a lot of the space has turned into.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. I was raised not to hate and not to want other people to die. And my dad taught me those things. So you can say that we voted a wrong candidate or that the candidate that lied to us, hurt the country or whatever. It is what it is. But, I was not told to do wrong. I was told to do right.
Yeah, and look, in 2016, I don't think it was the wrong position. Like, I didn't vote for Donald Trump because his politics were never my politics. But given how all of that went down, I was rooting for him to win. I was rooting for him to win. And so given how everything turned out, given that we are now where we are in this absolute nightmare, in retrospect, might have been better had Hillary won. Maybe. I mean, I don't know that for sure because she's a fucking monster as well. But it certainly couldn't have been much worse. Like, we couldn't have been much worse off than we are now. So I could look back 10 years ago and say, hey, I should have done more to stop Trump from winning. Like, I should have, what should I have campaigned for the Democrats? I'm not saying I should have, but I'm saying, like, I could look back and evaluate that decision now. What is really the point of doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like there's limited efficacy to going down those roads.
Sure.
Sorry, did you have anything else?
No, I just like that we are where we are now, right?
Right.
Like we're not in 2016 or 2020 or 2024. We are where we are now. Can we stop the genocide, please?
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, just to put a cap on this, honestly, the biggest issue hidden in plain sight has been Israel-Palestine all along.
100%.
And most people, including myself, were pretty much asleep at the wheel on it until it was too late. I
didn't know until 2 years ago. I didn't even know after October 7th happened, like the true details until like 2024 and 2025. And then I started realizing what was really up.
Right.
So.
Raven Laz, too bad I can't forget when Miriam sends Brigitte to pipe me down. Very hard to forget when I feel it every day. Thank you, Raven Laz. Vientica says, I'll say the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, but who am I going to be vigilant against? The man standing next to him, of course. Anything else requires effort. Professor Brown note, Chud is just one chromosome from being president. That's what makes the U.S. great. That's right. Every A Chud. Good one. Vientica is the true price of freedom is tolerance as well as vigilance, but its consequence is complacency. And empires are gay, says Vientica's Prime. Nocturnal Human, we should have a way to look up our own voting history to check if our votes were even counted. Well, if you have paper ballots, that's the point of paper ballots. And that's why I think you should have paper ballots, so that there is a paper trail. You can't really do a proper election audit without paper ballots. It's impossible. You can't do it. Does your dad, Alex, have any info on the powerful gay politicians controlling Washington as Hunter Biden?
I don't think so.
Tells it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, the closetocracy, as he says. All right, we'll move right on along here. Right? There we go. Okay. Please review the fake AOC Southern accent. We did on the last show. I haven't gotten a chance to clip it yet because and I had to prep this show all on my own since Russ was sick. So we'll have it clipped out.
Is that like Hillary's hot sauce? Is that?
Oh yeah, it's worse. It's worse. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's really, really great. What does she say? We can't leave Georgia behind. Yeah, it's like she really goes all out.
Succeed.
Like, it's crazy. All right, let's move right on along. All right, so the Iran war is America's least popular since polls began. That's right. It's not just the least popular of the 21st century, the least popular war in the history of modern political data, period. Not far from Martin Luther King's Gray Stone Memorial in Washington is a big golden cup honoring Donald Trump, the Iran War Participation Trophy, which I had not even seen this. I'm surprised this wasn't like viral on X, but I'll show you a picture. Erected by anonymous satirists, suggests that on the battlefield it is not the winning that counts, but the taking part. While some concern themselves with measurable outcomes, President Trump demonstrated the courage to participate, reads the inscription. So yeah, this is a piece of guerrilla art, which just appeared, like the charging bull outside the New York Stock Exchange in Lower Manhattan. This is a participation trophy put up for Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. That's pretty clever. Maura Flint, a local tour guide, says the joke is very funny, but the reality of Mr. Trump's long war in Iran is anything but. He doesn't have a good strategy for getting out, she complains. There is no end in sight. American voters seem to agree. As the ceasefire unravels, 4/5 think the war will last for an extended period, finds a Reuters Ipsos poll. Nearly half think it will grind on for a year or more, according to our own Economist YouGov polling. Few find the prospect appealing. Net approval for Mr. Trump's decision to attack Iran now stands at negative 30% among Americans. The war in Vietnam took 6 years to become as reviled as the Iran war has become in 6 months. So let's take a look at some more numbers here.
Yesterday, I was curious, given that we do appear to be in full-scale fighting again, I wanted to know, how do Americans feel about it this time around versus where they were at the beginning?
Yeah, historically unpopular. That's the phrase that I would use. The war was unpopular to start off with, and it's become even less popular. You could see it right here. Okay, Washington Post poll, Trump's Iran war net approval rating. In early March, look at this. It was way down there at minus 13 points. Very rare for a war to start off underwater on the net approval. That is approval minus disapproval. But look at how far down we are now, right into the Red Sea. 40 points underwater, according to the Washington Post poll. Look, I tried to find every single poll I possibly could. I believe this minus 40 points represents the least popular poll in terms of Trump's net approval rating on the Iran war, the entire war so far. So as I said at the beginning, it started off unpopular, and now it is even more unpopular, historically unpopular, 40 points underwater.
Well, since you're talking about history, put this in some historical perspective.
Yeah, okay, let's put it in some historical perspective.
This guy loves
you
his
think the
job.
war has been worth it or not worth it? And why don't we take a look here? We can compare Iran in 2026 to Iraq in 2006. And keep in mind, the Iraq war by this point in 2006, at this point in the midterm cycle, it had been going on for 3 years at this point. We're only a few months into this war. Think the war was worth it. Iraq in 2006, 58% said it was not worth it. And again, that was 3 years into that war. Look at this now. You think that 58% was high in terms of not worth it? 68% of Americans, more than 2 in 3, say the Iran war was not worth it. Just 28%, less than a third of Americans now say the Iran war was worth it, even less than the 40% who said the Iraq war was worth it. Again, at this point, heading into the 2006 midterm cycle, of course, we remember what happened in 2006. Republicans lost both the House and the Senate. And at this point...
Well, at that point in 2006, also the Iraq war was over 3 years old. Here, you're not even 6 months in.
This 28%, even lower, and this 68% saying not worth it, even higher than the 58% who said this about Iraq 20 years ago. And so this is a very, very bad number for the president. I think a lot of Republicans in Congress don't like this number one iota.
No, look, this is a notable difference. This was a devastating year for Republicans in the midterms there. And I'm really surprised, frankly, that the disapproval is that much higher at this point. All right, who are these people? What is the partisan makeup of people saying that they don't think the Iran war is worth it?
Yeah, the 68% not worth it, just a devastating number for Republicans. What is driving this number? Well, it's two groups that I think are just really interesting. Say the Iran war is not worth it. Look at this. Among all independents, it is 77%. More than 3 in 4 of all independents say it's not worth it. How about GOP-leaning independents? These are independents who say they actually lean Republican. 63% of them. More than 3 in 5, nearly 2 in 3.
So there you go. So among all independents, 77% disapproval. Among Republican-leaning independents, 63% disapproval. Just absolutely devastating numbers. The Vietnam War, which involved huge numbers of American ground troops, quickly became what voters saw as the most important problem facing America, according to Gallup. They did not say that about the Iran War, but they do tell pollsters that the issues they care most about include the high cost of living and poor leadership. So the Iran War could prove a big electoral problem for Republicans, despite the relatively modest cost in American blood. So the point here is that, the Vietnam War really commanded the attention of the American people in a way that this has not yet. But as things threaten to spiral further and further out of control, both in terms of the humanitarian perspective and an economic one, the writing is on the wall, so much so that even many in the conservative movement are trying to, I guess as subtly as they can without pissing daddy off too much, sound the alarm saying, hey, got to wrap this up soon.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. And with the midterm elections a little more than 100 days away, the clock is ticking for President Trump to get out of this war before voters head to the polls. It's making a lot of Republicans nervous. It's already, as we know, unpopular. According to the New Washington Post Ipsos polls, 69% of Americans disapprove of the handling of this conflict. Republicans cannot let this become an endless distraction, especially if they want to win in November.
Yep. Steve Bannon also saying Americans can't keep paying for this. Well, go ahead. Yeah, sure, of course.
Another guy in the Lizard Club, by the way.
another lizard guy. Another guy starting to look more like a lizard. I don't know. He looks a little healthier than Trump. He doesn't look. Trump is starting to look a little gaunt in the face a little bit. But yeah, I could see it.
Can't pay for this. The Israelis got to write a check. Money should be coming this way, not that way. They're a wealthy nation. They got health care. They got free college. Do you have that? No, you don't.
Well, I thought we're not supposed to have that. I thought that would make us communists.
That's right. You don't be a liberal, do you? You want that free health care, that college right there? We can fight a war with that money.
Yeah, very, very confused message there.
People in Europe got it. Israel got it.
Israel.
Why do they have it?
got
Because you're paying. You're picking up the defense tab. It's a sucker's play. It's time for other people to bird share before we extract ourselves, which we have to do, because it's a sideshow to the vital national security interests of the United States. And this is why Hormuz. Where's the World Navy? Where is the?
Yeah, well, they don't want to get involved.
Well, really quick,
because they have leaders that, at least, as evil as they are, they have brains.
Here's the thing. This is a common problem on that kind of like independent leaning or GOP independent type of like right-wing broadcaster or whatever, like a Bannon, even like my dad in certain respects, the minimization of like, oh, it's just, we got to get back to, what we got to do, make America great again, dirt to dirt. And it's just like, you can't really do that. Like, this is everything, like even the minimization of it, him there, like, we got to get back. No. We got to get out and then protect ourselves from the Israelis. Like it's like that's the first step once we extricate ourselves. It's not getting back to the good old ways. Like we have a foreign power that's trying to literally bend us over a barrel right now.
Of course. Well, that's what the NDAA is all about, as we talked about, right? For sure. Pump prices climbed back over the $4 gallon mark in the U.S. as fighting in the U.S.-Iran war escalated, reigniting a broader energy crisis amid a global crunch for transportation fuels. And here is the energy secretary trying to spin this as saying, actually, the gas is now cheaper than it was under the Biden administration. But notice he doesn't mention under the Biden administration, like when they left. He mentions 4 years ago, which was the supply chain crisis coming out of the pandemic lockdowns. He weighs this against that.
We can. Gasoline prices today are more than $1 a gallon cheaper than they were 4 years ago under the Biden administration. And we'll do everything.
Were they cheaper than they were at the end of the Biden administration? No, 4 years ago. Let's just pick a time that's convenient, like coming out of the COVID lockdowns, and we'll say, hey, it's cheaper than it was then. This is why you're seeing some unease in conservative media, I think, because now, see, the cost of doing the MOU is that you kick the can down the road long enough for this to really hit the fan during campaign season. Like, this now becomes a compounding problem, because now what are you going to have? Gas prices shoot up right as the midterms are coming in. I mean, now you are inside 4 months. You're really entering the home stretch of this cycle, and things are only getting worse. And now you're having the worst polling that you've ever seen on this issue, and it's causing some panic in these media circles, I think.
Right. Well, there's just no future for anyone that supported this war in general, and they all supported this war. So they all have no future collectively, which is what makes this also terrifying. And they can cook the books and throw stats, numbers, whatever. November is coming. And it will be a blue wave.
You think so?
100%.
What do you think in Texas is going to happen? You think that little guy is going to win?
Man, there's just too many clips of him saying, don't eat the beef or whatever. That does play really hard here, like some of that stuff. But I think Ted Cruz has given, kind of the Republican Party of Texas a really, really an ugly bath. Like, I know I'm in Austin here, but I go all around the state. I see people with those bumper stickers everywhere. People hate Ted Cruz. So Ken Paxton is relatively popular with kind of like the right-wing base, whatever, of Texas, I would say. But, I think Tallarico might take it.
I think he could. I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, it could be a totally jumbled map. Like, the Democrats might blow it in Maine because of all this shit that they had to go through with the Plattner thing. They might blow it in Michigan, but they may win Texas. Like, they may win a state they weren't supposed to. Like, it's it might be a little bit chaotic in the Senate in that sense. But
yeah,
go ahead.
They've tried to run a bunch of different candidates, right, for the Senate seat or 2 Senate seats, right? They ran Beto O'Rourke, who's kind of like a skateboarding guy who kind of sounded like he had a Mexican name or Hispanic name or whatever.
Right.
Then they ran Colin Allred, who's kind of like a black Chad, like football player type dude. And now they're running Tallarico, who's kind of like a Beyond Meat type of guy. So like one of these times it might work. We'll see what flavor we go for here.
Let's see. Let's see. Things are getting weird. You got a lot of people leaving California to go to Texas now. Maybe they're taking some of that Beyond Meat with them. Who knows? Maybe that's enough to push them over the top. But no, I mean this is really coming to a head at the worst possible time, and this is why part of me still thinks you're going to see some sort of tacoing until the midterms are over. That they might try and just stall this past the midterms, because how can you have? I mean, he said all this when they signed the MOU. I mean, he said, "I'm going to be Herbert Hoover." Like, you really want $5.50 a gallon gas?
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Crazy.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, so dangerous, and it's so creepy when they literally speak that stuff into existence. Like, by saying Iran must not have a nuclear weapon, Iran's going to get a nuclear weapon. There's another prediction for me. Like all these things. When Trump says it, it's like we know it to be true, but please don't do the magic spell. Like I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. And it's like, well, why are you thinking about that?
Right.
Why did that cross your mind? You read a history book, Mr. Trump? I thought you didn't read.
Yeah, and why would you say that? That to me was what was so shocking about that press conference. It's like, even if you're afraid of being Herbert Hoover, why would you say that? Because doesn't that then limit your ability to sell any escalation of the war? And this is why, man, he's just in shambles. Like, first of all, let's be real. I think the guy is losing his mind a little bit. Like, he is. Yeah, I mean, his brain is turning into soup. I mean, just look what he said today. Is China going to have to pay a price for that big speech that you made? Probably not. I mean, it was a long time ago. So then why'd you make the speech? Why'd you promote that speech for a week straight?
Have you heard about the Islamic Republic of Japan?
The Islamic Republic of Japan.
At the same time, you can go to the mosque and get sushi. Pretty interesting stuff they got going on there. Here's the thing. I think it's what Robert Barnes has said. He's very tapped in to the Trump administration, formerly was Trump's lawyer, literally also has worked for us. He says that Trump has frontal lobe dementia, meaning like there's a type of old person, that has like the Alzheimer's or whatever, and you can't remember, you can't get out of bed. And I've had family members that have had conditions like that, so I'm very empathetic. There's also the type of older person that's in the assisted living that keeps it like attacking the orderly, and that would be Trump. So like it's a different flavor than like a Biden necessarily. I would call it even more dangerous because baby Huey still thinks he's in charge. So like that, and that's where they can really maneuver him to do dangerous stuff. Like I view Trump as president, just the U.S. president in general, but him so because he embodies it mentally as well as like the literal metaphysical role. Think about like Clifford the Big Red Dog. Think about a giant baby with a rubber stamp.
Right.
And like, ooh, look at the keys. Look at the keys, and then he just does whatever they tell him to do, and he's proud of it. So,
right, yeah, no, it is just a really, really insane state of affairs. No other way to put it. All right, here we go. What do we got here? We're up to 683 in the like column. There we go, making it happen, holding it down. What do we got here?
That's how you know I'm a viewer. That's how you know I'm a viewer as well. That's how you know I watch this show every week.
Oh, yeah, he knows it. I didn't even have to cue you up. I knew you'd know it. To Weasel Pussy Mike Johnson, says Ugly Old Broad says stuff. You don't fool this boomer. Your weak-ass AUMF excuse is no different than every time a Dem claimed they would codify Roe versus Wade. My oath wasn't to a foreign nation. Thank you, Ugly Old Broad says stuff. Let's see here. EO Shush, I guarantee you if you took a blood test for all these casualties, they were all low T. Yeah, the best defense against drones and missiles is being high T.
Hey, no missile defense, but we got testosterone shot for you.
Right, we got testosterone shot. You're gonna look like a chiseled Chad while you're sitting at that military base like a sitting duck.
Right.
Vienticus Prime, Trump, do you know something that I don't know? Average person, yeah, that you're retarded. You're so orange because of how much of a flaming homo you are. Monkey Rotary, we all have blood on our hands. We all pay our taxes. That's another way of looking at it too, man. Yep. You're not kidding. Kinky, thanks for the $2. When will BB get a huge bronze statue on the DC Mall? That's right.
Coming up soon.
Coming soon. Devane says some baller cut down a flock camera in my mother-in-law's neighborhood. She's calling my wife, complaining, saying it's just a license plate reader. She's still pro-Israel, but won't talk politics. Fucking A, says. Ugly Old Broad says stuff. Give Russ my best, and hopefully he's got a line on real Jewish chicken soup. Yes, that shit cures everything. Not that goy slop. Yeah, not the Campbell's. The real Jewish chicken soup. Yeah, so for those who filed in late, Russ is out sick today, and we are joined by Rex Jones doing a great job as always. Thanks again for coming, man. Really appreciate it. Pete Sweet, Trump calling into question legitimacy of midterms while creating an internal enemy that does not exist, depicting opponents as the far left commies to set stage of declared crisis and insurrection act, he says.
That's a good one. I might steal that. I'll give you credit.
There you go. Look
Tweet
at that.
out. That's good.
Cited. Ted Cruz's PR and communications office is run by Israeli hyena Omri Sarin. All right. I like this as a funny one. Matt from Wisconsin. Y'all need to be more supportive of our armed forces. My girlfriend's husband is fighting overseas for your freedom. That's right. Thank you, Matt from Wisconsin. Comrade Cranky, we are all Palestinians now. Keaton, Ben Collins is the owner of The Onion. Oh, okay. Onion bought InfoWars. Good day, gentlemen. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Michael. Rex, can we get another debate with the quartering to find out what the oranges are for?
Okay, I don't know the orange reference. That's an example of everything we're talking about right now, because that's a guy who said glass Iran, bury them all. Like these are quotes, these are tweets. And then I have him on the show because I was calling him out for weeks. Like, this is outrageous. Like, you're a political commentator. Come on the show. I'm literally driving home to do a Thursday show, Gray Area. It was a Thursday evening. And he's like calling me out on Twitter saying, I'm blessing you with my time, XYZ, paraphrasing. Basically, we do the Thursday Gray Area show all about him. He comes on here and his defense is that he's not actually a political commentator and he doesn't do political commentary on X. So like when you're talking about, I don't know who the chatter was, who's talking about their maybe relative or something that was pro-Israel, mad at the flock camera being cut down. That is the soul of that person. Like they believe in, they don't believe it. Like they buy into like hype, political edit, like political programming, but then they don't know what any of it means to when they're questioned about it. They say, hey man, because I don't believe Jeremy wants to, kill little kids in the Middle East, but his actions support that.
Right.
But he's not willing to confront that mentally. So.
Right. All right, let's move right on along here. All right, this is kind of a funny one, folks. So, hey, we all remember J.D. Vance's appearance on Joe Rogan, throwing his hands up. If people want to say we mishandled the Epstein release, guilty. We did mishandle it. Now, for copyright reasons, we, uniquely for some reason, on YouTube, cannot play the Joe Rogan clips without getting in trouble. Yeah, we think it's
I've heard y'all say that before.
Yeah, Russ's theory is that we hurt their feelings because he criticized him for his Mark Andreessen interview, which, who knows? I mean, it is kind of bizarre that, like, everybody else seems to have no problem playing these clips, but whenever we play them, we get copyright blocked. Not just like a claim, but a block. Like, they will take the stream down. Yeah.
Beige Frequency had this same problem back in the day. Any real YouTube OGs will know what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. But we did a whole segment on Vance's Rogan appearance. I almost said Vance's Epstein appearance. Freudian slip. Yeah. So that's how that went. And Tim Dillon roasted him pretty good for it. This is pretty funny.
I think when like J.D. Vance goes on Rogan and goes, well, they have this whole discussion about the Epstein docs, and JD is like, I'll go to my death believing it was a larger conspiracy. It's kind of like these guys are like, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's like, no, you're the vice president. What are you talking about? JD Vance is talking about this like he's a guy at a bar in the town I grew up in on Long Island, where he'd be like, I'll always believe it was a conspiracy. You sure? That guy owns a pool company. He's gonna be like, yeah. What are you gonna do? I'll always believe someone on there. This guy's the vice president of the United States of America, going on the biggest podcast in the world, going, yep. I read all the files. Trump's innocent. Also, I'll always believe there was a greater conspiracy there. I'll always think something was going on. But what am I gonna do? I'm the vice president. That's J.D. Vance's character arc right now. Is his whole entire thing is just telling people what the vice president can't do. Like, what about the war in Iran? He goes, there's not much I can do. I just kind of hang out and, watch as I'm part of the administration that betrays its voters and does the opposite of everything it said it was going to do. I just kind of hang out and
I go on podcasts.
This Epstein thing, who knows? What are you going to do? It's a lot of what are you going to do energy from the vice president. I'm not saying the vice president's like an all-powerful figure, but it's just hilarious that, like, that's his argument. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Yeah, these Epstein docs, isn't that nuts, Joe? You heard about that? What? You're the vice president of the United States. They keep trying to play this game where they're like this folksy, kind of like relatable, like, yeah, these fucking elites, with they're fucking the kids, they're stealing your money. What? Who? You're doing it. You're the ones who are doing it. And they're relying on the fact that some of their most ardent supporters, the ones who aren't directly being paid off, are the stupidest people in the world.
Uh-huh.
So that still works on them. They're like, yeah, fucking Hillary. Hillary Clinton. Fucking Hillary Clinton. They're in the White House. They have the Congress. They have the Senate. They have the Supreme Court. It is them. It is now them. I don't want to hear about the deep state anymore.
Yep.
You're playing me for a fool. You're playing everyone for a fool. You brought in Kash Patel. You brought in that other guy, Dan Bongino. You threw him out or he left, whatever. You brought in Pam Bondi and then threw her out. I'm sick of hearing about this deep state. All of these people, you have to be one of the stupidest people in the world to fall for this shit at this point. You are peddling the dumbest, most, by the way, I hate to use this word, but cringe. It's literally cringe. You watch this and you go, I feel so disgusted by the fact that they think people are still gonna believe this shit.
Yeah. And, I think what you're looking at here is kind of a similar dynamic, oddly enough, to when Joe Biden was president. And I said, the reason why Joe Biden's presidency red-pilled a lot of people is because Biden was such a non-entity that you could see right through him to the deep state handlers. Like, you could just tell that it's Anthony Blinken running the country, it's Jake Sullivan running the country, it's Lloyd Austin running the country, and then their teams of minions around them. Well, I think the same thing is happening with Trump now. As Trump becomes more and more of an irrelevant, sort of impotent kind of figure, as Tucker says in a clip that I'll play in just a couple minutes, what you're seeing is that this is just basically another wing of the deep state coming in and taking over. Like, Palantir is the deep state now. Flock is the deep state now, right? It is just the deep state by another name. And when you look at all of this election shit that they're trying to fuck with now, I think that is an indication of the fact that, to Tim Dillon's point, like, you guys have the government now. You have to take responsibility for what you're doing. In other words, we have to assume that what you're doing is what you want to be doing. Therefore, you can't blame it on the deep state anymore. And I think that's what's really been revealed here, and what really has a lot of people with severe buyer's remorse about Trump, Tim Dillon included, he supported Trump in 2024 as well, is you just see that they're doing exactly what they want to do, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what they said they wanted to do in order to trick enough people into voting for him. Not just the anti-war stuff, but right down to the Maha stuff now, with the fucking glyphosate, and now they got the fucking the Taylor Farm. Nobody can eat salad anymore without shitting their brains out for days.
Parasite.
Yeah, exactly.
No, 100%. It's the country's off the rails. I agree.
Yeah, just absolutely off the rails. And I think the culture is slipping away, as evidenced by a monologue like that. And also, here's Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle at the record-breaking Shane Gillis comedy set. He comes in and does his little impression of J.D. Vance.
I'll be J.D. Vance, and you be Joe Rogan. All right, ready? Hey, I'm a big faggot.
Like, this is the big difference. Like, it's now cool to say that at a comedy show. And all of these guys in this whole sphere, in this whole space, you know, Tim Dillon, Chappelle, the sort of like anti-woke renegade space. Like, you really weren't supposed to say that about a figure like J.D. Vance a couple of years ago. And now it's open season to just mock these people in a very anti-woke fashion. Like, that's the thing, too. I feel like now the opposition to this administration is coming from those very sort of like anti-woke, maybe more socially conservative circles. It's not just coming from libs anymore who are afraid to make a joke like that. Like, the libs would cancel you if you make a joke like that because he used the F word there. But now there's enough people who are willing to just laugh at that because it's funny, it's subversive, and it's accurate. Like, I'm sorry, it's fucking accurate.
Right. In the South Park usage of the word, which is what I always reference when people like look at that in a comedic sense. Here's what I would say. To be elected president, you have to have a big tent coalition, right? For 2020 and Biden, whatever happened there, as Carmine would say.
Right. Whatever happened there.
Whatever happened there, you can look at it. People are in their homes and then they're afraid of COVID, right? So that's the big tent there. You can look at Trump in 2024, look at the economic disaster of Biden and Ukraine war. That was kind of the big tent. When you start making that tent smaller and smaller to only serve the interest of a few, and when you renege on everything you said you were going to do, the result is you're going to get people calling you the F slur that used to be your boys. Like, that's what it's going to be. So
and now the room is going to laugh at you. That's a big difference. Like, now people have the confidence to laugh at you. There are enough of you burned enough of your coalition to the point where there are enough people who used to like you because you gave them license to use the F word and the R word and stuff like that, like all the words we're allowed to use now that we couldn't during peak woke, right? Now they are pissed enough at you that they're willing to use that against you. And they're willing to laugh and back someone up when they use it against you. And that represents a real squandering of cultural capital. Because, you know, in 2024, when they won the election, they were really positioned to like take control of the cultural in ways that they hadn't been for many years, but they gave all that up. They gave all that up because everything they ran on was a lie, as Tim Dillon pointed out.
Do you remember it was like a Rolling Stone article cover or whatever? It was like the mean kids are back or something. It was like young Republicans at some sort of like gala or event, and they were all celebrating Trump's election win or whatever. And that's kind of that's the projection the media wants to give as to like what MAGA would be, is kind of like these like rich, white, like yuppie elitist type of people who I'd really think of being more liberal, right? I view MAGA as like the Hispanic mechanic who's 24 years old and wants to make more money. I view, or like in the past, not right now, in the past, I view 2024 MAGA as maybe like a black kid that's going through school, wants to be a real estate investor, wants to keep more money or something. It was financial. It was about, hey, we have somebody that's going to focus on domestic things, taxing me less and making me have more room for profit. Look at the PPP loan, right? As an example. So when you completely throw all that out and you say, y'all were never even a part of our thing in general, and you try to appeal to that base of people who I really, again, define as more liberal, you're doomed, right? What percentage of Jewish Americans vote Democrat? It's like 90% or something crazy like that, 70%. You're never going to appeal to those people just because you get Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer, to go, I'm a Republican now.
Exactly.
Think about the insanity of that, Keaton. And there's your coalition, the 90-year-old Epstein lawyer boomer. Here you go. You threw the record youth black support away, youth Latino support away. You said that wasn't important to you, right? Now you've got, 90-year-old Jewish people.
Exactly. That's a great point. And, that is the flip side. It's the reverse version of the same thing that the Democrats did in 2024, which is parade around Liz Cheney as if they really expanded their coalition by going to Michigan and touring the state with Liz Cheney. Like, Liz Cheney and what army? What voters does Liz Cheney represent? Almost none. Which voters do Alan Dershowitz? Oh, well, now we got Alan Dershowitz to say he's not a Democrat anymore. So what? It doesn't mean anything. They have no people behind them. And you're absolutely right about the diversity of the MAGA coalition being rooted in what ended up being an illusion of economic empowerment. Like, that's why Trump got tens of thousands of people in the Bronx to come out and see him. You had a lot, and you saw in the chart after 2024, just about every single county in the country moved to the right, including a lot of those urban counties. A lot of the urban counties had the most significant switches or shifts, not switches. They were still Democrat on balance, but they were Democrats by much smaller margins than usual because Trump made inroads with those groups because those groups actually represent lots of people, whereas Dershowitz represents nobody. Liz Cheney represents nobody.
That's the real flyover country.
Right.
It's the real flyover country that nobody ever talks about. 100%.
Exactly. And so just to put a button on this, here is Tucker just emphasizing just how irrelevant Donald Trump has become.
Is that Trump's views are irrelevant. I don't think he was for this war with Iran. He did it anyway. He's utterly controlled. So there's that. J.D. Vance is the only person I'm aware of in American national politics with any power at all, to the extent he has power, who would oppose this. But I don't see anyone other than J.D. Vance.
Yes.
Hope I'm wrong.
Now, as far as that's concerned, Rex, what is I would love to get your take on this, since you are obviously, more surrounded by this sort of right of center circles than we are. I do definitely see, and I think the Rogan appearance was part of that. And Tucker seems to be, one toe in and one toe out. But there definitely does seem to be an effort to sanitize J.D. Vance's role in all of this and make him the palatable America first choice moving forward. Do you get a sense that that's happening, and where do you stand on that?
Oh, I completely disavow JD. I call him Chud Vance on the show all the time. Both Rubio and Vance, we cannot have them. It's Jeb Bush 2.0 or Jeb Bush squared if they run together, which is what I think is going to happen.
Right.
Rubio will be president, JD will be vice president, or vice versa. I think that's how they'll play it. But as far as like what's the question? The rehabilitation of his image, like post-Iran war?
Yeah, like do you see an effort to do that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I even see that from people like my dad, and I disagree with that. So I get from the perspective of, oh, he's out there saying quote unquote anti-war stuff. He is a mouthpiece for Trump. That is market manipulation. That is how I view it. Now, what he says about the Israelis, the Bible says God spits you out of his mouth if you're lukewarm, right? We're being occupied. We are occupied. We've been taken over. Like I keep waiting for, and I said this around Diane Sarr and Jose Vega, and I kind of got laughed at, not by them, but by other people. I was like, when's JD going to resign? I genuinely said that. Now I'm 23 and retarded, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize he's the vice president. I'm not thinking about that. In a second, I'm thinking, oh, he's a human being, and he's being a part of genocide. Maybe he should be the first person to stand up and say something about it. And all it would take, literally, any 30 seconds of the day, go in a bathroom, go, hi, I'm the vice president. Israel has us all blackmailed. They're saying they're going to nuke the entire world. Samson option if we don't genocide the Iranians. Post, and then the entire simulation gets broken. Well, we can never have that. Never, ever. Or like G7 press conference. I mean, that's one of the moments where you see them, like Trump has agency in that moment, because even though he's co-opted and controlled, and it's the bureaucrats that really run everything, the people that he appointed and was paid to appoint, in that moment, he's the president and he's in front of the world. And those cameras aren't stopping rolling, right? So when he says something about Lebanon or whatever, it gets taken more seriously. So I don't buy any of it, because we see them reverse themselves every 5 seconds. So that's my position on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just cope at this point. I mean, I think the Iran war was really it. Like, that was the last chance. And that's why Joe Kent did what he did, because he realized, okay, this is the last chance. Everybody else, J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, any of these people, like, you missed the boat, man. Your chance to take a stand and say, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore, was when he started this war. Past that point, it's too late.
I agree. And also, why do I have to support J.D. Vance? Where did he come from? Why did he change his name 3 times? What did he do? He was a senator for a couple of years or whatever? Like,
he's a creation of the PayPal mafia. He is a cutout. He is really the guy, and this is why I do think Trump is going to at some point resign in this term, and J.D. Vance is going to run as an incumbent, because he is the guy who the new deep state, the Palantir flock camera, surveillance deep state, he's the guy who they want. And I think he's going to be a very tough sell in 2028 if he has to run as a continuation of this. I think if Trump resigns and he's able to rebrand himself, given how horrible the Democrats are, he might have a chance.
I don't. Now we found something we disagree on. I don't know. Think about Biden. Think about how Biden clawed onto power until
it's not going to be easy.
Debate. Dude, Trump. What? if they try to get him out of there, that is going to be literally hell on earth. I don't know how you get Unk out of there, man. I really don't. What do you think's going to happen?
My guess is, and this is my guess at this point, is that he's going to sow maximum chaos around these midterms. There's going to be not a literal January 6th type thing, but, you know, a lot of chaos, a constitutional crisis where they're going to refuse to seat people. And at the end of the day, when the dust settles, I think the Republicans will be a minority party. And he's going to just be faced with impeachment after impeachment after impeachment. And I don't think he's up for it. I don't think his heart is in it at this point. I think what Tucker said is right in that, you know, he really didn't want to do this. He's doing this because he has to. He doesn't seem to take any pleasure in the job anymore. And I think when you're staring down a Democratic majority that can just impeach you literally like 7-8 times, like they could just do it over and over and over again. There's enough stuff. I mean, all of this crypto shit alone is enough to probably impeach him on something. And that's just off the top of my head, man. Like there's so much.
No, this is phenomenal analysis. I'm really thinking about it. Like he's a gambler and he knows it's his last night on earth because the demon is going to come collect what he. Have you seen the meme where it's like LeBron playing a basketball and then it's like a 90-year-old guy? It's like, remember our deal, LeBron. I posted it about Michael Jackson because there's a photo of Shmuley on his deathbed. And I was like, remember our deal, Michael. That's literally, I didn't even think about that. And the question is, if there's like a 5% chance the demon doesn't come and he gets to stay alive, and he's betting everything on that. He's like, I'm still going to win the midterms. I'm going to be all right. If that's over, I 100% could see him out of there. You're so right about that. I didn't even think about the impeachment.
Yeah, because I just don't think he wants to go through that at this point. At this point, he could do an Eric Cartman. Like, you know what? Fuck this. The election was rigged. I can't deal with these people. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Like, I could see him doing that, you know? Yeah, because the thing is, like, and this time, like, they all know that there's shit to impeach them. I mean, just the crypto scamming alone is enough. The first term was completely different. Like the Democrats' impeachments against Trump in the first term were bullshit. Like, hey, you know what? I think Trump was right to tell Ukraine, hey, you're going to explain this Hunter Biden shit or we're not sending you aid. Like, I actually think he was right to do that. And I think impeaching him over that was bullshit. And I think he had the truth on his side and he knew he could survive it. And so it was different. This time, man, you got fucking, I mean, there's shit we're not even talking about with the kids in the Kazakhstan and whatever the fuck that is. I don't even know what that is. And I know enough to know, hey, there's probably something there. Like the Democrats have a dozen plays they can make to just make this administration hell for 2 straight years. And I don't think Trump wants to stick around for it at this point. I really don't.
That's a whole nother deeper cut into the psyop, because you have to ask when it truly began and when Trump became truly implicated, involved in all of this. And people talking about Epstein can say from the very beginning. And I do have to say, you know, maybe there's some credence to that. I mean, I do a morning show with my morning co-host, Anthony Graffio, and he believes that Trump is like a part of like a Luciferian prophecy. Now, I don't subscribe to that, but you do have to say there is this breaking of the horse effect with the Russiagate shit, right? Sorry for cursing.
Yeah.
Just over and over and over again, both to us, the people that support him, because like I was like 16 years old knowing about Christopher Steele, Fusion GPS, the dossier, Hillary, like all this insane stuff. Because when you would tell people that you like Trump or supported Trump back then for various reasons, immediately that would be the attack. So you had to know about it. So I got trained literally to defend Donald Trump.
Right.
And it was a lie. It was not true. But you have to ask yourself, how far are these things planned out in the past? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a little weird, isn't it?
Of course. Of course.
Because now he's an international criminal. It's known. Bribery, fraud, scamming, crypto, pump and dump. Literally, it's the most insane stuff on earth. And then you get people that are like, my collar's blue, my neck is red. I support Trump because you lied about him back then. You're lying about him now. Does that not make sense to people in the audience?
No, I think it does. I think it does.
So like there's a lot of that going on. So
I think so. Yep. 100%. Vienticus Prime says, I'll point out again, people will say that if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't worry, but a mouse has nothing to hide either until a snake is staring him down. That's right. EO Shush, did Rush just get Wally pipped? Rex with the great jokes, great impressions, great insights, and Star Wars reference. If Rex nails the 666 headbang, people will start talking. Well, he did. He did. There you go. We did it. Thanks, EO Shush. A deep state by another name will still be balls deep in your ass. Thank you, Vienticus. Ugly old bastard says stuff. Says, now I know the end is near. Dillon as a moral compass. Thank you, my friend. Interabang says, but trans people are swimming though.
No. Trump ended transgender for everyone. He says it like once a week. So I don't know what you're talking about. There's no swimming anymore for any.
And that's his biggest accomplishment. Yeah. He started off the big China speech with we used to have transgender for everybody. Now
insane.
It's over. Yeah.
Deranged.
Absolutely unhinged. Minutemen revived. I'm worried that the strategy is to bait Iran into destroying GCC oil production while hitting Russian output, leaving the U.S. as the only reliable energy source to preserve the petrodollar and SWIFT against BRICS and CIPS. Yeah, Richard Medhurst just talked a lot about this, about the strategy surrounding that. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good take. I think that's definitely a reasonable concern for sure.
To tag
All right.
Really quick to tag onto that, I think a big factor in the Iranians doing as well as they have so far is because of how measured and patient in response they have been. And that's an element, like in the West, we talk about them as like frothing at the mouth or whatever. It's completely insane. They're the total opposite of that. And if they were even a little bit dumber, they would all be dead.
Absolutely. I mean, when the MOU was signed, I said, they got to that point through resolve and restraint, right? They had the resolve not to panic in the face of, repeated rantings about Donald Trump's going to end their civilization, blah, blah, blah. They understood that those were the rantings of an emotional toddler. And they had the restraint not to hit the desalination plants, not to cause as much damage around the region as they were capable of, because that would have escalated further. Now that Israel sabotaged the MOU, and now we're back in a situation where things can escalate out of control. This is why we're in a very, very dangerous time. I still think Trump is going to figure out some way to stall until after the midterms because of reasons he articulated himself. I mean, he said it himself on stage at the G7. Like, there's just no good end to this. And that interview with Foreign Minister Arachi of Iran, where he's just sitting there like Obi-Wan Kenobi, going, "Have you ever gone to a meeting where everyone knows they're going to die?" You can't win against that. It's powerful archetype. You can't beat it. So. Yep. Very good point. All right, let's move right on along here. Okay, so, hey, it's campaign season in Israel, and talk about pandering to the base.
No.
Here's Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich laid it out. The goal is conquering Gaza, liberating the land, and settling it with Jews. So here he is. The most intentional clarifications of the identity of the people of Israel and the state of Israel, and this works in both directions. The result of the war are determined and will be determined with God's help only in accordance with our internal clarifications. If we decide that this war, it ends with us occupying, liberating the territories of the birth in Gaza and settling it, that's what it will be. And this, God willing, will truly be the absolute victory. Also in the simple logic of collecting a price and fixing the consciousness of loss for those who cost us what these Nazis did to us. But also in that it's not another round, we're done. That's it. There is settlement. There's an army. There's security. Reality proves this simple thing. So yeah, Israeli ministers join March to Gaza to demand return of settlements. That's right. These are Gaza settlements, not West Bank settlements. Israeli cabinet members and parliamentarians have joined a march towards Gaza to call for the rebuilding of Jewish settlements in the besieged Palestinian territory. The march on Sunday defied a military order that restricted their route at the last minute over concerns that some participants plan to cross the fence into besieged Palestinian territory. The rally is the latest sign of how calls to resettle Gaza have moved from the political margins into Israel's mainstream political discourse. So, you know how we hear all the time, hey, this is Netanyahu's war, the Israeli people are not for this? Well, actually, some of the Israeli people, in fact, a sizable contingent of the Israeli people are to Netanyahu's right. They want him to go further. Netanyahu is a moderate in Israeli politics, not a radical.
Ben-Gvir is basically he is a Nazi. He literally is openly, unabashedly calls for genocide. All of Lebanon must burn. For every one of your mothers that weep, or for every one of our mothers that weep, 1,000 of yours will. That's called collective punishment. That's called genocide. That's called ethnic cleansing. This is all on the record stuff. And this is why I know you guys have an incredibly based audience, probably more based than me in some respects. But you still have relatives and stuff that believe this stuff. Are you talking to them about this? Like,
Right.
seriously, you got to talk about the quotes, man. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, of course. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party was listed among the rally's sponsors, despite his insistence that Gaza will not be resettled. Earlier, the Israeli army designated the surrounding area a closed military zone for 24 hours, saying it was meant to stop marchers from crossing into Gaza. Yeah, some of these people actually did sneak across the border and plant an Israeli flag in Gaza. And even though Netanyahu is in denial about these plans, like the reporting says here, his own Likud party was listed among the rally's sponsors. Nakhala, the settler group behind the event, called it the March of Thousands and said more than 10,000 attended, although Israeli media reports estimated the crowd at only a few hundred. Nakhala is led by Daniela Weiss, no relation, who has long advocated Israel resettling Gaza. Speaking at a Likud party conference, she said Palestinians would disappear from the territory. So there's that new movie called The Settlers by, I forget the guy's name, the British guy who made it. But he has a lot of conversations with her in that film. And she is just a
What is that lady?
Psycho.
Yeah.
She was on Piers Morgan way back when, you
Yeah.
know, just, I mean, like a witch, like literally, like she presents as an evil witch, just one of the most transparently, nakedly evil people you'll ever see. So here she is on Gaza's border yesterday. They asked me what will happen to the Arabs in Gaza. There will be no Arabs in Gaza. Thanks for the translation there, because this is not subtitled, but here she is.
שואלים אותי מה יהיה עם הערבים בעזה, או יהיו יותר ערבים בעזה.
Some marchers bypassed checkpoints through nearby hillsides to reach the Gaza border. Video verified by Al Jazeera's verification unit showed dozens of Israelis gathered at the border fence. Now, CNN was actually embedded in this demonstration here, so they put out a little video showing the march.
Campaign season is underway. We've come here just close to the border with Gaza. Crowds are beginning to gather. Right-wing members of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's governing coalition are going to be showing up here. These are the ministers who've been putting hundreds of millions of dollars into settlements in the West Bank. And this rally here, they want settlements for Israelis.
So yeah, it ain't 10,000 people. You can see that pretty clearly.
Inside of Gaza. Israel had about half of Gaza under their control. Now they've been pushing what was known as a yellow line forward a little bit. They have control of it more, and it's this area that these settlers here, supporters of settlers, it's that area that they want to move settlements into.
Years ago, we would control 70% of the Gaza Strip. All right, I have that video later, which I'll play. Also on the march were Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who also oversees settlement affairs, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, and more than 24 ministers and legislators, Israeli media reported. Marching under the banner, returning home after 21 years, they demanded the reconstruction of Eli Sinai, Dugit, and Nisanit, 3 settlements evacuated when Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. Ben-Gvir, a member of Netanyahu's cabinet, posted a video of himself among the marchers with a caption, "Gaza is ours." Fellow cabinet minister Smotrich also called on Israelis not to miss a historic opportunity to rebuild settlements in Gaza. So this is the video that Gvir posted, but Ryan Razbiani actually subtitled it for us. So he says, if 3 years ago someone had told us we'd control percent of Gaza, no one would have believed it. So I'm saying today there will be Jewish settlement throughout all of Gaza. We'll expel the migrants, send those back to who need to go to their countries, and we'll return home to our Gaza. You call them migrants. They're migrants there.
Yeah, future migrants.
Yeah.
Future migrants. That's how I think so. You got a giant fat guy who's literally like Cartman 2.0. He's like Cartman, but real Jewish and evil. It's crazy to think about. And look at him. He's got his armed guards. He's got his security. This is the same guy. I don't know if he did it directly or one of his goons did it. Like literally shoving women down that are bringing rice to Gaza.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You saw him get in their face and taunt them. And yeah, no, just an absolute madman.
Men and women on the ground, bent in struggle positions or what they're called. He's a pig, man. He's really, and think about this. Our money goes to these people.
Yep. And they want to tell you this is not a genocidal state, and this is not a genocidal government, and this is not a genocidal society, quite frankly, as a democratic society that supposedly has some control over who represents them. Well, this guy's in the cabinet. This guy is a wanted criminal. This guy is a convicted inciter of violence. This guy has been convicted in Israeli courts of being extreme by their standards, and yet he is the national security minister, member in good standing of Netanyahu's cabinet, running up to the Gaza border, saying we're going to get all the migrants out, and it'll be ours. Go ahead.
Oh, how dare you criticize the only democracy in the Middle East?
Yeah, exactly. They're the only democracy in the Middle East, and this is the government that they have empowered. I'll show this one more time here. If 3 years ago someone had told us we'd control 70% of Gaza, no one would have believed it. So I'm saying today there will be Jewish settlement throughout all of Gaza. We'll expel the migrants, send back those who need to go to their countries. So this is. I mean, you read the UN Charter, you read the UN definition of genocide, transferring members of a group to somewhere else. I mean, just that alone is considered a genocidal act. What do you mean their country? So that is just denial of the Palestinian people outright. State, no state. What you're saying is that they belong somewhere else. They're migrants. They're migrants, even though the state of Israel was founded in 1948, and the founding of the state of Israel necessitated the forced removal of hundreds of thousands of quote unquote migrants. Well, where'd they come from? They predated your state.
Yeah, I know you got a lot of talented artists out there in the audience, especially like music and stuff that I've listened to that's been promoted on the program before. I know there's a talented painter out there. Someone needs to paint the burning of the olive trees, because that is symbolic for everything that goes on. See, if it was just about taking, they would take that for themselves and use it, but it's not about that. They're erasing the people. They're erasing their footprint on that land where they've been for thousands of years. Ben-Gvir is the migrant, not the Palestinians. So,
very well said. And they're claiming it for themselves. You know, that's why they call like Middle Eastern food Israeli food. Hummus is not Israeli food. that's Middle Eastern food. That's why they make up all of these like Star Wars names for themselves to make them sound more indigenous to the region. Netanyahu's real name is Milikowski. He's
same
Polish.
As
He's from Philadelphia.
Malay also has the same surname.
Oh, yeah? Oh, that's right. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, I didn't even know that. Well, he did a lousier job hiding it, but that's interesting. That's a good point. So yeah, absolutely sick, but also very telling that this is a campaign stunt. Like that is considered a political ploy in Israel. They have elections coming up in October, first elections since October 7th, where the Netanyahu party is expected to lose, but lose to who? Like Netanyahu represents the political center in Israel. He is not considered a radical by Israeli standards. And so Netanyahu on his way out, that's not necessarily good news, as insane as that sounds. Well, he does not represent the most radical element in Israeli politics. This guy does. We just showed you.
And even the opposition party, look at Naftali Bennett. He's ready for World War III with Turkey.
Oh, right? Yeah. No, they are fucking insane. It's insane. It is an out of control rogue state. There's no other way to put it. And they have their hooks in us, obviously. All right, race car. Thanks for the $20. Say thanks for keeping the Sun live stream active. I get the Sunday scaries big time, but watching DD on Sunday calms me down. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, no, Sunday night is our flagship show. We would never axe that. Don't worry. Pete Sweet, I agree. Keaton, bet on Polymarket months Trump out before the end of the year. He's plundered enough. Will pardon himself. Everyone then retire winning. Well, I cannot give gambling advice, and I'm not a gambling man, so I wouldn't even if I could. But that is my guess. That is my guess. Beelzebub Smotrich. Yes. Thank you, Pete Sweet.
That's great.
Absolutely. That's what Russ calls him. Gavin Hillick says if Vance becomes president before next 20th January, he can only run for one more term. So Trump has to stay until then for 2 more. No, he doesn't. No, if he takes over, he could still run for 2. You're allowed to be elected twice. You can be elected twice. So that's what the Constitution says. Not that you can only serve 2 terms, but you can be elected president twice. So theoretically, if Trump quits and Vance takes over, Vance could be president for 10 years.
Wow.
I don't think that'll happen, but it's possible. Sorry, go ahead. Did you want to add something?
No, I actually wasn't aware of that. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So he would get 2 terms plus if he took over. I mean, I don't think he would win 2 elections, but who knows, man? Anything can happen in America. Vianticus Prime, I'll point out again, people will say if you have nothing to hide. Oh, sorry. You had nothing to hide. Yeah, I got you that time. Oh, sorry. Here we go. All right. Let me just see. Sorry. I forgot to.
Everything's a scam. Everything's a lie.
There you go.
So I don't comply.
He knows. Vianticus, why don't you head over to Rex's show and start giving him some of those Rumble rants that everything's a scam. This way he can get paid to read that. Now he has it memorized.
I do.
Yeah, he's got it memorized. Beelzebub Smotrich already has his luxury beachside apartment picked out. And that's right. That's right. Yeah. Have they tried releasing the hostages? Yeah. Good point.
Wait, with Netanyahu's son, he changed his name? Did you cover?
When did that happen?
He changed it to I forget the first one. His last name now is Hon, H-O-N. This was a couple weeks ago.
And what's his first name? I forget his first name.
Yair.
Oh, Yair Hon.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a Star Wars name. Yair Hon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what they do. All right, we got one more segment on the day here, folks. Please do smash that like button. Round of applause for Rex in the chat for sticking around with us, going the distance. Are you off for the rest of the day? Do you have a gray area tonight?
I do not have another show tonight, but tomorrow will be another 6-hour because I got my morning show and I'll be hosting the AJN War Room. I'm having Suleiman Ahmed, that journalist that we talked about earlier, doing on-the-ground reporting, Iran, Yemen, other places. Going to be really fascinating. So it's a 26-hour week if you don't include the weekend, and it's a 31-hour week if you include the weekend. So
there you go. All right, we got one more segment on the day. All right, folks. So this should make you nervous. Marco Rubio tweets out, for more than 6 decades, the Cuban regime has been the leading sponsor of radical leftism and third worldism in the United States. Third worldism, they say. The State Department is exposing the full history of Cuban espionage and subversion in our country. The American people deserve to know. Why now? Why now? Are you guys planning to overthrow the Cuban government anytime soon? Max Blumenthal tweets out, why would Cuba do this? Yeah. Yeah. With the APAC in the background.
Those darn Cubans, man. With that blue and white flag, just like the Chinese.
Yeah, just like the Chinese with the blue and white flag, just like the Venezuelans, just like the Iranians, just like the Russians. Yeah, all this outside interference, all this subversion. So this was a 100-page report here. Ben Norton says McCarthyism is back. The U.S. State Department just published an insane McCarthyite report that maliciously portrays leading left-wing groups in the U.S. as supposed front groups for Cuba. This is part of an authoritarian attempt led by Marco Rubio to criminalize and persecute leftist groups that oppose the U.S. empire's crimes at home and around the world. Some of the organizations being targeted in this fascistic crackdown are Code Pink, the People's Forum, DSA, Black Alliance for Peace, the National Lawyers Guild, and Pastors for peace. So they make mention of various groups and individuals as either targets of or agents of Cuban espionage efforts. It's very vague as to how they are implicating these individuals and groups. And so, to be clear, this does not formally designate anyone anything. It's not a legal document in that sense, but it is very chilling in the sense that it really informs a new McCarthyite ethos within this government. There's no other way to describe it. Joe Rote says this report is justification for the military invasion of Cuba and the new COINTELPRO. Rubio lists the People's Forum, Code Pink, and DSA as Cuban front groups, which the Trump administration will inevitably try to break and suppress. And what's so laughable about this, once again, is like DSA are barely socialists, much less communists. I mean, they're social democrats, basically. Is what they are. State Department again deems Cuba a threat amid talk of U.S. push for regime change. So the Washington Post actually did report on this so that we didn't have to show you guys the whole 100-page report, because that would be a big lift. But the Trump administration issued a report on Monday alleging that a multi-decade Cuban influence campaign in the United States has had remarkable success in infiltrating the highest reaches of the U.S. government, backing left-wing terrorism on American soil, and turning America against itself. The 100-page report released by the State Department entitled Cuba, the Capital of 21st Century Communism, summarizes decades of Cold War-era subversion plots by the impoverished Caribbean island that coincided with years of unsuccessful covert U.S. efforts to decapitate its communist government. You know, it's a little insulting to China to call Cuba the capital of 21st century communism. I mean, China is the emerging superpower, are they not? The report also makes pointed claims against left-wing American groups, listing the Democratic Socialists of America, a rising activist organization that backs a number of Democratic lawmakers, under a section about front groups and fellow travelers. It suggests that Cuba has influenced recent political upheavals in the U.S., including the George Floyd riots and the rise of Antifa, referencing the protests that began after Floyd's killing and a loosely knit movement of far-left activists who militantly oppose fascism. So remember when Russiagate happened and we called this a new McCarthyism? Well, that's exactly what this is. It's saying that you can't hold a belief without being influenced by some foreign entity to hold that belief. In other words, if you opposed the Ukraine war, you were a Putin puppet, right? If you supported Donald Trump, you were being manipulated by the Russians into supporting Donald Trump. In other words, you can't arrive at a position on your own without some foreign influence or espionage or subversion. The threat posed by Cuba is described in far more dire terms than those employed by U.S. intelligence officials and State Department diplomats over several decades, reviving speculation that the Trump administration is establishing a pretext for overthrowing the communist government in Havana, a longtime goal of Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So, you think? I mean, there are certain individuals who are under investigation now, who are some of them are referenced in this report, but this report does not make any assertions or designations of terrorist groups or things like that. It's basically a McCarthyite blacklist, and this works exactly the way McCarthyism works, which is you cast a broad net, you make insinuations and smears against people to justify investigations and infiltrations, and then where you can lead successful fishing expeditions, prosecutions. It's very scary stuff. From its earliest years in power, the Cuban regime has believed that its own survival... Oh, sorry, did I skip something there or did I not? No, I didn't. From its earliest years in power, the Cuban regime has believed that its own survival and strategic interests were inextricably linked to the advance of the revolutionary left inside the United States, the report says. The Cubans trained and armed tens of thousands of left-wing guerrillas, oversaw violent insurgencies that plunged multiple continents into chaos, and backed deadly extremist attacks across the United States. The reference is apparently to Cuban support for left-wing revolutions in Latin America and Africa, largely in the 1970s and early 1980s. During that period, at the behest of the Soviet Union, then its primary backer, Havana sent its military forces to Angola and Ethiopia to support Moscow-favored Marxist groups. So yes, this is a key point here. A lot of the upheaval that Cuba caused that's referenced in this report is back during the days of the USSR, when they had the backing of the USSR. That's what the Cuban Missile Crisis was. Like, they did point Russian missiles, or they did have Russian missiles that were stationed there that were deemed a threat to the United States. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, however, Cuba has been very much weakened. And the idea that Cuba poses any kind of existential threat to the United States, I think, strikes most thinking people as completely absurd. The report's publication drew support from some Republican lawmakers. Rubio has already emerged as the de facto head of U.S. policy toward Venezuela, another socialist Latin American state, after a U.S. military operation in January to arrest its president, Nicolas Maduro. But he's got some backing here. Make no mistake, says Representative Carlos Jimenez, the despicable regime in Cuba poses a significant national security threat to the safety of the American people. Secretary Rubio is right to expose the dictatorship's nefarious tactics aimed at undermining our well-being. Cuba is next. Look at that. Already advertising the next war. The next war. Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants to the U.S. who left before the 1958 revolution, has campaigned against the communist government in Havana since his time as a senator. Since becoming leader of the State Department last year, he has overseen an expansion of the sanctions policy targeting Cuba, a move that critics said would worsen the island's economic crisis. Rubio last week hosted a ministerial event at the State Department during which he sought to rally support for what he described as a resurgence of, quote, far-left political terrorism. At that event, he told the assembled foreign officials that Cuba's sprawling intelligence and ideological network helped to build the far left in our country and in our hemisphere. And yeah, this is all, of course, a march to war. That's very obvious that that's what this is. And once they invade Cuba, if there are protests, they're going to say that those protests are Cuban actors. They're going to say that basically Cuba has activated cells within our country to protest against the war. That's my prediction anyway. U.S. slaps new sanctions on Cuban companies key to island's crumbling economy. This was back in June of this year, just a few weeks ago. Rubio calls for release of political prisoners in Cuba as dissident arrives in the United States. And Ken Klippenstein has a Substack where he read through this big document and found 43 Americans and groups identified, or at least name-dropped in the document. Like I said, the document itself is quite vague. And as Rex said earlier in the live stream, you know, the vagueness of these things is what makes them very dangerous, because you don't know where they're going to go with this. You don't know where they're going to take this. But just to show you some of the names here, Eve Ensler, she wrote the Vagina Monologues, by the way, a prominent playwright who attended the wedding of Neville Roy Singham and Jody Evans. Neville Roy Singham is the husband of one of the Pink founders, who's under investigation, I believe, as like a Chinese agent or something. So like I said, like if they investigate you, they have to have some charges that they're looking to hang on you. What these designations do is justify fishing expeditions where they can stick a probe up anyone's ass. And, it's a very, very dangerous thing. And just to see how far they're taking this, Amy Goodman is a communist agent. She's an NPR host. Like I said, these people are barely socialists and much less communists. Amy Goodman is a communist revolutionary.
It reminds me a lot about Biden and the white Christian national extremists.
Of course. And I'm sure we'll talk about that, because that's a good point. Amy Goodman, host of Democracy Now!, who the report notes attended the wedding of leftist billionaire Neville Roy Singham and Jody Evans. So talk about like guilt by association. Now, once again, these are people who are name dropped in the piece. This is not confirmation that they've been designated anything. But it just shows you where they're looking. Like, that is a very McCarthyite tactic to say, well, you were at this guy's wedding. Remember what they said about Jill Stein? You sat at a table with Vladimir Putin once. as if that, like, these are textbook McCarthyite tactics. Oh, you were at a social function with this person, or you were invited to a social function by this person. Ben Cohen also attended the wedding of it. So the ice cream man, yes, the Ben and Jerry's ice cream man. He's a Cuban agent or a useful idiot for the Cuban regime. You know, this would be funny if it weren't so terrifying because, yeah, they do want to invade Cuba and they do want to frame anyone who opposes that invasion as somehow an agent of Cuba who needs to be dragged before a committee and interrogated. You know, were you ever a member of the Communist Party? Who do you know? Name names. I mean, it is a revival of the Red Scare. They reference the Red Scare in the report. They talk about how the McCarthyite tactics were effective at crushing leftist movements and leftist parties, and that is pretty clearly what the agenda is here. In addition to that, obviously, or maybe secondary to that, we don't know at this point, the toppling of the Cuban government. That seems to be the effort here. That seems to be the play here. And this just seems to be an effort to manufacture consent for that in the most ridiculous and ludicrous way possible. I mean, you just have to read a thing like this and ask, who is it for? Who is it for? Like, why even bother publishing a report like that? The American people deserve to know. What American people deserve to know? Rex's grandparents who he watches Fox News with? I mean, of who is this of interest to? Like, who believes that Ben and Jerry's ice cream is a front for the Castro government? Like, it is so beyond ludicrous. But this is all this administration does, is just cause problems for people. They just hassle people and make war around the world. That's it.
It's just another white rabbit. That's all it is. And that's what Trump is good at. You see, he can distract day by day, week by week, month by month, and that's how the passage of time works. So,
yeah, it is. It is a desperate tactic in a way. And this is what, you know, people are saying. You know, Caitlin Johnston wrote an article about that. You know, hey, don't be too afraid. They wouldn't resort to this unless they felt like they were losing the argument, because they are losing the argument because they don't stand for anything. They don't stand for anything that makes anyone's lives better. Now, you made an interesting point about the designation of the white nationalists and the otherizing and of certain groups under Biden and the political prosecutions that happen under Biden. And this is why when Biden was president, you know, we were, and, you know, you were watching us back then, we were speaking out against that when it happened, because partly because we knew it would be turned against, you know, whatever the out group du jour is when powers changes hands, but also because, like, I'm a civil libertarian above anything else. Like, you know, I believe in freedom of speech, freedom of association, the right to peaceful assembly and peaceful dissent. And I thought that a lot of the moves that Biden made really were fractions that could not be undone and would not be undone once power changed hands. Like, I spoke up for the free speech rights of the January 6ers on January 7th, 2021. I called that podcast episode, That's My New January 6th, which I think is good. I'm surprised that didn't catch on more, because I think that's pretty good. But yeah, look, I mean, these are the roads you go down. And it's very, very scary, because there's no gang like the government. When their boot is on your neck, there's not a whole lot you can do.
And it's never your boot stomping on the ground, no matter what side does it. That's the key.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That is the key. That is the key. And that is something that nobody seems to understand. And that's one of the real that's one of the things that's, I think, most bleak and most depressing about how this second Trump term has turned out, at least from our perspective, because, like, I know on this show, we spoke out for the free speech rights of conservatives over and over again when they were under assault by Biden. And you get none of that support in the other direction. Once power changes hands, they're like, oh yeah, well, fuck you. Now we're going to stick it up your ass. Okay, well, then you're no better than the people who you replaced. You're just a right-wing version of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is our assessments of that. Pretty scary stuff. Alrighty. Well, I'm gonna take care of a little housekeeping here on my end, but Rex, we can wrap you now if you gotta go. Thank you so much for being here, man. Always such a pleasure to have you. Please tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys want to check me out, I am live every single morning, Monday through Friday. And that's New American Journal. Follow me on X. Follow me on X. That's going to be Rex Jones News with a Z. And then, of course, it's New American Journal. That's that morning show. Evening show is Gray Area Talks. But really, if you just follow me on Twitter or honestly Instagram, it's the same name. Just launched that like a few weeks ago. I haven't had an Instagram in years. But I'm posting like short clips on there of the show. I've got other stuff on there as well. The same with the X page, but it's Gray Area Talks in the evening. That's the marquee show on Sunday. We do a 3-hour, 7:30, 10:30 p.m. We have a guest interview, whatever. Don't want to compete with you guys, so watch us on Rewind. Watch us on Rewind. But here's the thing. In the morning, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., we do a phenomenal show. Tim's there with me on Tuesday. Anthony does Wednesday through Friday with me, but that is my solo morning show. Catch me on a Monday. That would be my advice. Catch me on a Monday. Thank you so much, man. And if you need toothpaste, 50%off.com. That's my store. No one else owns it. I'm a manufacturer, shipper, white labeler, e-commerce person, you name it. 50%off.com, Jones CBD. All right. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Before you go, I know Gray Area is on YouTube and Rumble. Is New American Journal also on YouTube?
New American Journal is exclusively Rumble and X,
that's what I thought.
because
Okay.
I play a lot of copyrighted material on the low.
Okay.
I didn't want
All
to deal with the censorship on YouTube
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
I didn't want to lose that again. So I'm giving it a Rumble and X shot. It's really like the way I do a show. It's just it's all encompassing. Like it's all various genres: comedy, philosophy, geopolitical analysis, politics. Like there's so many various aspects I go into. Come check it out one of these days if y'all are there. Give me a shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Follow Rex on all his platforms and Rex Jones News with a Z on Twitter. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for helping me out on short notice. Really appreciate it. You're a lifesaver, and would love to have you back sometime soon.
Always. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, man. Bye-bye. All right. Round of applause for Rex Jones, filling in on short notice for Russell Dobular, who will be on the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow. That's Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. All right, let's put our supporter scroll up here. Oh, yeah, I meant to mention this at the top of the show. Just had a lot of housekeeping to get to. So, obviously, because Russ is sick today, we're going to postpone the member post-game and Q&A until Thursday when he can be here for it. So, this Thursday, we'll do an extended show for the members, and we'll take your calls. We just didn't want to do that today without him. Of course. So we will be on Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern with the member post game, which will be a bonus segment plus your calls. So that'll happen on this Thursday afternoon. And if you'd like access to that, one great way to get it, in fact, the only great way to get it, is to become a member. DueDissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or/locals for $5 a month. You get the bonus live stream once a month, Film Club with Right Brain TV live stream. You also get your name up in lights here on the scroll, as well as ad-free versions of every live stream emailed to you the day after they air live. So if you miss a show, you can always catch it without commercial interruption on the replay. Thanks, of course, to our members who are the backbone of the operation here. Could not do this without you fine people. All right. Vientica says, one might say Zionism is basically a cultural Oedipus complex. They want to kill the fathers of the area so they can have sex with the motherland. Yeah. You need to put these thoughts in a book, my friend. Ugly Old Broad says stuff. That's why this is so hard for indigenous people to watch this genocide in real time. It's like watching a live action performance of what happened to our ancestors. Yeah. I feel that. Thank you for that perspective. Vienticus Prime says, I'll send Rex a t-shirt. Oh, there you go. What size t-shirt? Oh, I'll ask him. I'll text him. I'll ask him what size t-shirt he is. Sorry, I didn't see that in time. Vienticus. I would say Rex looks like a large. That'd be my guess. I don't know how tall he is, but, he's got a build. So I would say he's probably a large. You gotta get him when he joins Pete Hegseth's high T He-Man army. Maybe he'll get even more jacked and become an extra large. But for now, I think he's probably a large. If Trump's cheeseburger habit or something takes him out before 2028, will Vance pardon all the crooks, or will he and Tucker make their own list? Free the Hormuzians. Will they part? Yeah, you mean if Trump were to, suddenly resign, if you will? Yeah, that would be a good question. What if that happens before you get the pardons out? That's a good question. I don't know. My guess is he'll issue the pardons. Ugly Old Broad says stuff. If Trump grabs Cuba, he'll rename the island for himself, get his airport, and the kids have their new island. Still close to flamingos, and Rubio can play like he fit in the, what is the last name? That he fit in the shoes Trump gave him. There you go. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, let's take a look over here. What do we got? Vienticus. They are in a book, Keaton. You got them. Just sit here and quote myself like that. Those are the books that you get. What kind of crazy? These are just like random quotations. I didn't think they were in the book that you sent me. All right. Well, I'll have to take a look. They don't ring a bell to me. When will the world rise up against the U.S., NATO, Israel axis of the demonic? Well, they are. They're just doing so. They can't do so militarily because that'll lead to nuclear annihilation. But that's what BRICS is. That's what the multipolar sort of reshuffling of power is, I think. Comrade Cranky. Andy Gardner says, hate to say thank God for social media for once, because Gvir and company are so evil and you wouldn't know it because of the media's complicity, even in the 90s. That's true. I mean, it is a double-edged sword, but like you don't see that covered in the mainstream press. I was actually shocked that CNN had someone on the ground for that rally, because they were one of the very, very few outlets that paid any attention to that at all, and I was shocked that they did. Iran didn't work out, so Pahlavi for Israel. Ooh, that's right. All jokes, is that Mark from the brain chip, Rex? Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'll have to ask him that as well. I'll find a delicate way to ask him. Thumbs up, Rex. Left, right coming together as Jimmy Dore cites Frederick Douglass will unite with anyone to do right and no one to do wrong. Yeah, no, Rex is a great guy, man. Rex has been watching this show forever, like I said, and I meant to tell him the story about the South Park F word, because I don't think he heard that, but I have my own story about that, which I'll tell a different time, because I've told it a couple times on the show before, but maybe I'll tell it again sometime soon. All right, let's see, what do we got over here? Any other takers? Looks like that's a wrap for today. Thanks, everybody, very much for being here. Thanks so much to our friend Rex Jones for filling in last minute. Really appreciate it, as always. Best wishes to Russell Dobular, who is hopefully on the mend. He will be in the host chair on the Jimmy Dore show tomorrow. He had 3 in a row, so I told him, I said, look, 3 in a row is too much to do if you're dogging it like this. You got to try and get your voice better, because 3 shows in 3 days is not easy as it is. So he will be live tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll be live at noon Eastern on Thursday. Until then, thanks everybody very much for being here. Thanks to the YouTubers and to the Rumblers and to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. Russ will see you on Jimmy's show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you at noon right back here, same place. Until then, thanks once again for spending the afternoon with us, everybody. Be safe and be well. Courage.
Please clap.